The Tuesday, January 28th, 2017 meeting of the Leon County School Board is called to order. We are meeting in the Aquilina Howell Center at 3955 West Pensacola Street, Tallahassee, Florida. Our first opening item is that of the Pledge of Allegiance and a thought for the day. And the students bringing us those presentations will be introduced by Student School Board member Ms. Blumley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Giving the Pledge of Allegiance tonight is a fifth grader from W.T. Moore Elementary School. His name is Jalen Tucker. At W.T. Moore, he is a member of the Safety Patrol and is interested in football, basketball, spending time with his family, and playing video games. And I'm sorry, I inadvertently forgot to mention that he is accompanied by his parents, Aaron and Tia Miller, and is accompanied also by his principal, Miss Sue Crawl.
Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Giving the thought for the day this evening is another fifth grader from W.T. Moore, Jaden Brown, who is accompanied by her mother, Kendra Brown, and also accompanied by her principal, Miss Sue Crawl. At W.T. Moore, she is in the honors chorus strings class where she plays violin. She's also a member of the Safety Patrol and is an anchor on the WTME morning show. She's interested in reading, dance, music, baking, and making money. So I guess she's an entrepreneur.
Good.
Today, I will be involved in learning. No one can do that for me. I must do it for myself. I will share my knowledge in the way I help, in the way I work, and in the way I act. These are the expectations that we are supposed to have during the day.
Wonderful. Great. What wonderful words to live by and to work by, Miss Jaden. And Mr. Jalen, you did an outstanding job as well. Would the parents of these wonderful students please stand along with the principal? If other family members are here, you may stand as well. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you being here tonight. And of course, you're welcome to stay with us throughout the entire meeting. But if you choose to leave, we'll understand because you may have homework to do. You looked as if you were interested in staying, Jalen. You want to go home now? Okay, then you may. Thank you so much. Thank you all for coming. Give them a hand, please. Thank you. And now our changes and additions will be read by Vice Chair Striplin.
Yes, ma'am. Number one, item 6.03, approval of personnel actions, replaced documentation and updated the public content. This was done due to the addition of item 16. Number two, item 11.03, 17-18 licenses for Edmentum, Ed Options, Academy Career Pathways, Safety Net for Godby High School, Success Academy, and James S. Rickards High School. Replaced documentation for all three sites. The updated documents had different pricing than the original, so the total dollar amount was changed from $141,700 to $124,800. Number three, add item 17.06, Cliff Lamb and Associates, SFA DeSoto Trail PTO funded walking jogging track. The financial documents for this item were not available until the day after the agenda was published. The school wished to move this item to the February 28, 2017 school board meeting so that the project can be completed before the end of the school year due to the fact that the current fifth graders were a large part of the fundraising. Number four, add item 18.16, 2017 amendment to the extended school year and summer reading academy calendars. There were many collaborative meetings between transportation, food services, ESE, and academic support staff to finalize these calendars. Number five, item 4.01, Goodwill Industries, Big Ben LCS voucher program, students helping students clothing drive pulled. Number 6, item 11.04, opening nights, performing arts, and Leon County Schools Kennedy Center Partners in Education Program, updated documentation. Number 7, item 18.02, return of donated property for parcels, added documentation. Number 8, add item 23.01, new issues from board members, School Board Chair Joy Bowen, teacher shortage and recruitment plan, and that is it.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve and receive this?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I have one other item.
Okay.
I need to talk with the board about real briefly, perhaps at the end of the consideration agenda, maybe 18.17. I want to request a shade meeting on some litigation. I can explain it further.
Okay, so we'll add
the
18 point, what did you say?
17.
17. Considered added to the consent agenda. And now a motion to approve.
Madam Chair,
Moved by Lewis. Go ahead.
I move the change in addition to the agenda with the necessary changes.
Second.
Moved by Lewis Butler, second by Ms. Woods. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposes? It carries unanimously. It passes unanimously. Board members, I noticed tonight that we have a good number of individuals in our audience at our meeting tonight, well, their meeting, and I'm thinking that what we may want to do now is to listen to any words that they may have for us, and unless there are objections, can we go ahead and do that? They have completed speaker cards. Thank you. Then at this time, I will call our first speaker, Mr. Ken Wallen. If you would come to the podium and give us your name and address for the record, you will have 3 minutes. It is expected that our meeting is going to be a little long tonight, and so we want to accommodate scheduling. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for doing this.
Sure.
My name is Ken Walling. My address is 2121 Olivia Drive. I'm here representing myself and my son. My son is a student at the ACE program here in Tallahassee, so I guess you can already guess what I'm fixing to talk to you about. I've sent emails to most of the board members, and for those that did reply back, I appreciate your response. But I'm still here hoping that common sense and good guidance will take a lead. Superintendent Handa has on several times indicated he thinks that the relocation efforts between moving the PACE program to the ACE campus, moving the ACE program to the Lively campus is a good idea. He says he knows in his gut it's the right thing to do. I respectfully disagree. Logic and cost-effective moves would make, the logic and a cost-effective move to make would be to take PACE and move them to Building 14 on the Lively campus. As you probably know, Building 14 is 22,000 square feet. PACE is in deplorable conditions. Some pros on that, they will have new efficient classrooms, administrative offices, a secure location. It's already designed as an ESE program and provides space for future growth by doubling their space. Mainly, it will get PACE out of those portables. The cons in this move that I see, moving the ACE program, which consists of the AD program, the English Second Language, and the GED program, which has approximately 450 students full and part-time, to move them all the way across town into less space than they have. They have 38,000 square feet currently at the ACE campus. I've heard figures from anywhere from 24 to 28,000 square feet over in the Lively location. That's going to be a tight fit. However, with PACE being in the portables, if you move them into Building 14, which has 22,000 square feet, you'll double their space. You'll give them more classrooms than they have portables that they're currently using. Plus, it gives them offices for their administrative and their staff, an area for their clinic they so desire to have. And it just makes sense to me, being logical. Why move two programs when you get by with moving one? The cost of building out the Building 14 and Building 10 for the ACE and the English Second Language, the GED program, which why would you want to move a program? You already have them out here at Lively anyway. You have them on both sides of town. Why consolidate them into two? It's not convenient for the people that are in it. The impact on the students, most of them aren't, I know the AD program at ACE, they don't accept change very well. Why make them change? They've been there for 25 years. They have everything they need. So in closing, until somebody can come up with some cost, and Superintendent Hannah even offered to give us a Friday and bus service. Bus service is, I mean, that's just a knee-jerk reaction to it, if you ask me. There's no way you can expect the kids to go to the ACE campus and be transported across the Lively campus. They come and go at different times during the day. You'll be running a shuttle service that you wouldn't believe. Just the cost of the build-outs, the Friday program, and the
Thank you, Mr. Wallen.
should be consideration to not make a move.
Thank you. Well, your considerations will be noted. Thank you so much. Next speaker is Roberto Del Moro, or Morel. Please help me. Thank you, sir.
I'm pretty much here because we have tried to get some information, and even though we have the Sunshine Law, we haven't been able to get anything regardless here. I mean, Management 101 remedial, basically says that whenever you make a type of managerial decision, you always have a plan, a reason why. You make some kind of implementation forms and evaluations, monitoring, reporting, etc., that a normal management plan should be used to implement. Now, we have no idea what the heck was going on, even though we have requested. I mean, the only thing we know here is basically some information we have been gathering around, which said the pace needs to be changed to another place, and that is agreeable. And Mr. Wallen just said one of the things that can be done. Then he also said the pace cannot be in Lively because there was some kind of security problems. And well, if pace cannot be in there because of security problem, could you imagine some mentally challenged and handicapped guys in there too? It's the same problem, and if you're going to solve the problem of the safety concerns, then you have solved the safety concern for everybody, including pace or the mentally handicapped. It can also be said by that way. They were talking about transportation, which Mr. Wallen just mentioned. It is going to be almost impossible because this type of population have a lot of problems. They can never be at the same time all the time. They have different schedules. They have therapies. Everyone have doctor appointments and many other stuff because of their condition. And also, it's just ridiculous to go there and make a count. One day. It's not even a scientific sample to go there 2 or 3 days and make a count of this type of population, which is to fluctuate so much because of their condition. So that's obviously indicates a little bit of ignorance in who they are dealing here with. And then it's the practical part of moving 60 students to a pace to what 500 students were there before. I mean, that doesn't make any sense to me. Cutting 40% of the space that the people have in ACE right now and falling 3 or 4 times the one that PACE is going to have. I mean, the cost of the maintenance is going to be the same for less people, And then also you got the safety issue, which you said you solve it, but you solve it for one, you solve it for all. And quite a logic here. I mean, it's not to make any common sense to say that a transition student from ACE are going to be better moved to Lively if they're close. Most of the challenging, the people that have, the mentally challenged will not be able to do it. And the other ones are adults that they can take a bus or whatever. So that doesn't make much sense to me. We would like to see if we can get that information that we are requesting. Right. There's a Sunshine Law, and I think we have entitled to that.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate your comments as well. Our next speaker is Rebecca DeMorel Rodolfer. I don't mean to mispronounce it, so help me. Thank you.
Hi, Dr. Rebecca Del Morel Rudolph for 2213 Greystone Lane. Thank you for hearing us out again. Superintendent, most of this goes directly to you. You ran your campaign. This is the biggest concern for most of us. You ran your campaign on transparency, and what's happening now is the furthest thing from that. You said you would listen to our concerns. I don't feel that you are. I feel that there is some neglect in the actual hardship of what's going on. This is not an inconvenience here. Everybody's talking about their adapt, and with every move there's inconvenience. This is so much more than that. There's multiple kids that will not be able to attend the program. This is their home away from home, and they risk losing the accessibility to that program when you move it over. You are pretty much fully responsible for depriving them of further education, self-enrichment, self-worth, and brighter future, because you alone, it sounds like, made this decision. You have said that Lively is not a place for PACE to share their campus due to their young age, and I understand that. Again, this is the case for the majority of our adults with disability students. They are children. A lot of them are second and third grade level in the exact manner that these other PACE students are, and it's not fair to expose them, just like you do not want to expose the PACE students. You have said the move of ACE students to Lively would be a great transition, as it would be a smooth transition to enter vocational training. Again, I don't feel that you understand the population. The majority of these students are not trainable in that way. They will not benefit from this. And I feel that if you'd taken the time to learn more about this population, you would also understand that. Then there's the underutilization. I mean, just simple math to me. You have, and I know we all keep harping on this, but this was like a huge point for you. You're basically stating that it's underutilized now. You did not get accurate information. There's numbers that show 200 average students per day there. I'm not sure where you got yours. And so by having, well, even there's 500 registered, by having 200 per day there, you're now bringing 60 in there, and that's not even further underutilized. Again, it just doesn't make sense. And I have serious concerns that if you truly believe this is logical, and if you truly believe this is a good move for ACE students in the program, it doesn't give me any hope for other things that you may face as superintendent. Furthermore, I have concerns about the board members not being more involved. I understand that as superintendent, he found a way to carry this out with your approval. I'd like to mention that the general public is really not aware that he basically made this choice on his own and with consulting his staff, and the devastating impact that this is causing on our vulnerable students. Unfortunately, this does reflect on you as a board, because the general public does not see that division, and it's just something to think about in the future as you are elected officials. Anyhow, I just want to finally say I'm an eye doctor. I go to bed at night, every night, just making sure that I did the right thing for my patients, and I sleep very well. And I'm just wondering if you sleep well, thinking that you're fully satisfied that you're doing the right thing.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next speaker is Martha Del Mario.
Good evening, and thank you for giving me the opportunity. My name is Martha Del Moral. This is my son, Roberto Del Moral. I'm the wife of Mr. Del Moral and the mother of Robbie's twin, Dr. Rebecca Del Moral. They have stated very valid to me information regarding what's the situation we're going through. Mr. Walling, my husband, my daughter, have been very specific in the information they have. So I'm here on the other side, the mother, the teacher for 20 years in that program. Mr. Superintendent, I wish you would go and visit, as I wrote to the members of the board, go and visit our school at lunchtime. Go and meet, extend your hand, and talk with these students. Ask them questions to see which one they can answer. You can actually ask him once. They have all very impacted in a very emotional way. We try not to speak in front of them, but they can sense it. They can sense that our parents are not, whatever they can think, whatever is the process of their mind. He's been crying since the day that he was informed, and we were informed, in back of our backs, PACE went to visit. Again, they need a safe place. We did not know, teachers and principals didn't know, a week before that you called them to a meeting. And I have to say you and your staff, because it's you and your staff. Please go and visit them. You, the office, the board members, get to meet. You see, he doesn't understand 90% of what we're saying, but he does understand he's moving from the palace they already have, maybe to who knows what. We have a palace already. We don't need to be diminished. We have the home. It doesn't matter if you offer them a bigger palace. That's not home for them. So please take into consideration all this. We don't believe that you were informed ahead of time, because for the previous meeting, the board had no knowledge that this was going on. So I don't know what you have behind. I don't know if it seems to be that you want to save Lively, because your programs there have been going down, down, down. So you have to justify for funds. And I say it again, it seems to me, it's an opinion, you want to feel Lively. Lively must go on. These students cannot be mixed with your transitional program. They can work, they will grow, they can take transportation. He can't. Even if you put him in a dial ride, he doesn't know where he's going. And that's probably 87% of our population. Would you please take this into consideration also? This is a human part against a political part. Thank you very much.
Ma'am, thank you both. William Busby.
Good afternoon. I'm William Busby, 2542 Stonegate Drive, Tallahassee. Greetings. I'm here today to ask you some questions. We've sent out some information requests and we haven't received them. I would like to know how the cost of the 50, 60 people is going to be when they get over to the new area. You've got 38,000 square feet. You got somewhere between 50 and 60 people, students. What is the cost? That's about 700 square feet per person. Now maybe you're going to squeeze them up into a smaller portion. I don't know. But what are you going to do with the rest of it? Is it going to be left open? I don't think so. I don't think it should be. Have you determined the cost for these students? And we've talked about this before. The cost of busing, the cost of additional people that are going to be required. People are going to have set up wheelchairs, and as it was said before, you're going to have to go over to Lively. Everybody's going to go over to the old school and move them, take them to Lively. That doesn't make sense to me. How will the cost that we're fixing to have to pay, the public is having to pay, how does that jive with the cost of the 5-year budget? Has it been put in yet? I don't think so. And why? And I don't understand, whenever you sent some people over to check the numbers over at the school, and they gave a ridiculous figure, 2025, that was absurd. Why didn't you just go to the school and ask the school for their records? I don't understand that. Did they go at night, in the morning? Or, sometimes, the school was let out from what I understand, when you went over there. The school was not there anymore. The students gain many life skills at this school, and such thing as gardening. Where is the gardening is going to be over the new place? Do you have a place for that? I don't think so. What about the kitchen? I understand that at one point they said they were going to have a commercial style kitchen. Now later on I heard that we're not going to have a commercial style kitchen. Where are the records of the meetings that brought to this point? I'm sure that the superintendent, Rocky Hanna, had meetings with people to determine that what they're going to do. Was anybody told? No.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate your being here, and we certainly do hear your comments tonight. I believe those may conclude the speakers on that topic. We have some other speakers, but they appear to be about other agenda items down in the agenda. So we will come to them at that time. Okay. Mrs. Superintendent, would you care to speak right now?
Yes, ma'am, Madam Chair, thank you. We sent out and posted on our website after our last meeting our position paper as to the numbers that were gathered, the information we gathered, and to the logic behind this move. I firmly believe and stand behind this decision. Met with numerous members of my staff who also support this decision as well. I feel as though at the end of the day that we are going to be taking the very best care of all of our students, no matter if it's our AD students, our ESOL students, our GED students, and our PACE secondary students. Sometimes decisions are not easy, and change is not easy, but I strongly believe that this is the right thing to do and stand behind this decision, and will do everything that I can to make this transition as seamless as possible. We sent out a letter this evening, late this afternoon, talking about we were going to have an open house. We are preparing things now and have an open house after spring break for all these families and their students to come visit. It's going to be a wonderful facility. I mean, we have plenty of space. It just, to me, makes complete sense. And I apologize for the anxiety that it's causing, but I can assure you that I am committed to taking care of all of these students. And we are expanding to five days a week. Currently, we only serve 4 days a week. This program is free of charge to all of our students. We have a meager grant, a little over $200,000 grant. We commit significantly more resources to that as a school system to take care of this student population. I'm committed to continue that. We talked about a kitchen, yes. We talked about an outside garden area, yes. The campus is secure. We currently have some pre-K and toddlers on that site, on that facility, so it is safe. It's safe for those children, and it will be safe for the AD population as well. I don't know how else to say this. This wasn't something that I just thought up. I've been working with this program for a number of years. I visited adult ed 3 years ago when Miss Van Camp was the principal, and worked with this program and Lively's program. I was over there on numerous occasions, and I was on the Lively campus on numerous occasions looking for myself at real numbers, and the numbers make sense. And we sent all this information out. I'm sorry that there may have been some confusion as to how the process played out, but this wasn't something that was just thought up overnight. And I am committed, and we are committed as a school system to take care of these adult learners. I went and visited another program in town just in case our funding is not guaranteed. If our funding is cut altogether by the legislature, we went over and visited the program at Pyramid, which is also located on Commonwealth Center, and they have hundreds of adult with disability learners through there, and it's on a part of a fee basis. There's also Medicaid involved. We're not that way. We're not structured that way. It's absolutely free of charge to our learners. But if we don't have any funding at all, we have to have a backup plan that we can at least offer the facility to house them. I'm not sure how many. I mean, we can. Again, I'll be glad to talk to anybody at any time about this issue. A change and decisions like this do not come lightly. But I just know I can assure you that I'm going to take care of your brother, your sisters, your children, your son, your daughter, and I just feel like this is the best opportunity for us to do this while also taking care of our fragile students ages kindergarten through 12th grade that have emotional behavior disorders that we can best serve all of our students by making this move.
Ms. Strickland?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I very plainly said I disagree with this move. I very much hear the population that is speaking, and I do think that this is disrupting a community that doesn't need to be disrupted. That being said, I would ask the superintendent that you present us, because this is something that will come before the board, the cost associated with it. We haven't seen the things that have been promised and what it's actually going to cost to move this population, to add a day, to make the renovations, whatever it is that we're going to be doing. I would ask the superintendent that he present us with that so we can see that information.
I can absolutely, our staff is already employed on Fridays. There's just no students, so it's not going to be any added cost for the time expansion. As far as the physical move, the property, all of that equipment, the computers it's paid for with workforce dollars will transition over to Lively Campus. They're on the same funding model. We presented we're going to save approximately $100,000 a year on utility and maintenance fees at Pace Secondary's campus. So it's and while the ARC building, the building 14 at Lively, sits empty, as does 10,000 or 12,000 square feet behind that building. So as far as added cost, the cost will be basically the cost of the move. But I can surely provide you those numbers as well.
Further comments from board members? Thank you, Mr. Superintendent, and thank you, community members, for being here tonight and expressing your concerns. I am certain that the decisions that will be made will certainly keep in mind not only the safety of all of our children, but will be done in a way that academic learning will continue. Thank you so very kindly for being here tonight.
Madam Chair. I just wanted to be on record as echoing Ms. Strickland's comments. I'm concerned about this particular population, the adults with disabilities. I think I mentioned at the last meeting, I wondered if there was any way to reconsider carving out that piece of this. And moreover, when you talk about the ARC building sitting empty, that was one of the most difficult votes I ever had to make, was when we shut down the Academic Resource Center for gifted students. So my preference would probably be to have it revert to its original purpose. But in any case, for what it's worth, I think that we should reconsider this particular population.
Okay. All right. Thank you. No further comments?
Let me have one more question.
Yes.
So I did hear the superintendent say that adding a day is not going to cost us much. I'm confused about that. The teachers that are currently at ACE are teaching 4 days, is that correct? And you're saying they'll teach 5 days at the same price, at the same cost to the district, they're teaching 4 days?
They're currently compensated for 5 days.
Even though they only teach 4?
They're currently compensated for 5 days.
I don't even know how to react to that.
That's a whole nother question. There's a lot of. So yes, I have some concerns about the operation of that program and adult community ed and Lively program. So the plan right now is for us to take a serious look at that funding model and exactly how numbers are tracked, how documents are gathered, how data is gathered, because it does not fit in any other component. They are not monitored by Genesis. As far as attendance is concerned, as far as scheduling is concerned, I have some serious concerns about that entire program. And I'm committed to get in there and clean it up completely. So yes, to answer your question right now, they are from what I understand, they're 4 days a week. The program's running 4 days a week. I'm going to expand to 5 days a week. But I am very concerned about the entire program and workforce dollars, and I'm committed to clean it up.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Ms. Rasmussen.
Let me hasten to agree with that. The Lively situation's been problematic for a long time, and I appreciate your commitment to getting into all of these programs and figuring out the business processes. that has been a priority of mine since I became aware of the magnitude of the problem a couple of years ago, and I continue to support you in your effort to do that. I'm just, again, asking the question, is there any other way to just reconsider this small piece for this particular population while simultaneously continuing to improve our business processes and making sure that we are being appropriately held accountable and good stewards of our resources, both federal workforce and state tax dollars?
And real quick, it has been considered. I can assure you, we have considered that. I do not think it's healthy to mix these two populations, and neither do the people that work with these two groups. To blend those two and have them on the same campus, I think is a.
I don't know what you mean. You mean leaving them at ACE? Okay.
That was my suggestion, actually.
And having talked to.
Any other option?
And the other piece is our numbers at Page Secondary are low because if you look at their current facility, there aren't a whole lot of parents that want to send their children to that facility. If we have a need district-wide, and especially in our middle schools, to expand this program. And I feel like if we have a place that's
available for that.
Yes,
I don't disagree with you on that. I'm just.
And I just don't think it's, in consulting with our people, that it's right to mix those two populations. I just think it's a recipe for disaster. But I can assure you, the proof will be in the pudding. Let's just put it that way.
One more question.
Ms. Stripling.
I completely agree. I think Lively is a problem. Obviously, it's been addressed way before I got here, but it's sitting empty. We're not utilizing it well. PACE is a problem. We have these children that are struggling and they're sitting in portables and they have nothing and they shouldn't be there. That should be a top priority. But then we brought in this population that has nothing to do with those two schools being fixed, and we're causing them a problem. So now we have three populations of problems. And my concern here is that we're involving a community that has some very specific emotional concerns. They are going to struggle to adjust to anything outside of the environment in which they've become accustomed to. And I think we're making a mistake here. I think there's another way to fix it, and would urge you to reconsider.
Mr. Rasmussen.
Sorry, just one last point. To this end, I had asked Dr. Pridgeon for sort of a cheat sheet on who are the unique populations that we serve and what are the funding sources. So, for example, I think one of your ideas was to combine the populations that are currently considered at Gasvini and Second Chance, which, as I understand it, part of that population are academically challenged, the other part are behaviorally challenged. And I'm concerned about, shouldn't we step back and take a broader look at all of these different populations and see what the best mix is, and looking at the funding sources, because I do understand that workforce development funds are different than our general fund budget from the state. And perhaps I've belabored the point too long, but I just would urge you to make a more comprehensive and strategic view of it.
Ms. Lewis Butler.
Yes. Superintendent Hannah, the Gretchen Everhart School, they have students there. What's the population there? And the Gretchen Everhart School, because we created another school with adult education, and we have Gretchen Everhart. I don't understand.
We have a wonderful program in Gretchen Everhart. Not only does it serve Leon County, it serves surrounding counties as well. I was over with Jane Floyd last week. They had a poster contest and went and visited some classrooms, and it is, I'm just going to tell you, the people that work there are saints. They are.
Are they full?
And yes, they are. Yes, they are definitely full.
Because I know a number of these students probably went to Everhart first, and
Yep.
it would be a familiar environment for them. But you're saying there's no room?
Right.
Okay. Ms. Superintendent, are you?
We have students there up to the age of 22 as well, and she is full. And we take students from surrounding counties, and those are driven with the FTE dollars. I can circle back with Ms. Bullen, but in my conversations with her last week, she was busting at the seams, and we needed us to send her some additional resources in the way of teacher aides to accommodate some of those challenging situations.
So how many students do we
Ms.
have?
Lewis Butler, it's your turn to speak now.
Thank you. How many students do you have at adult education, like the Gretchen Everhart's? So how many students do we have there?
Adults with disabilities?
With disabilities.
So you have 89 students, from what I understand, that are enrolled in the Adults with Disabilities program on the Trojan Trail site. However, on the average daily attendance when we were there was no more than 30 in attendance on any given day. There are a lot of them, or a number, I'm not going to say a number, when we went to visit the Pyramid program on Commonwealth that kind of combine days. They'll go some days to Pyramid, and some days they'll come to us. And so they might go to our program Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Pyramid Tuesday, Thursday, or vice versa. The difference, again, with the Pyramid program, there's a fee attached, and they also work through Medicaid in order to get reimbursements for those students, much like we do for our students at Gretchen Everhart and our other programs. We have a Medicaid reimbursement program, but we don't with this adult population. We don't. It's all the grant plus what you all or we all kick in as a school system covers the expenses.
Could we have that cost analysis? I think that would be helpful to everybody. Everyone keeps asking for it. I'm sorry, Madam Chair, I should have asked.
Yes, Ms. Woods?
Not tonight, obviously, but
Yes.
for a future workshop.
Sure, we can do a cost analysis of what the program, the amount of the grant, the amount that we pay in salaries and benefits, the cost that what it's going to cost to move the program over, the savings realized. Like I said already, is about $100,000 a year at the pace, because we're going to be either probably demolishing those portables, that considering they're 50, 60, 70 years old. But we can certainly do that.
Okay. One more question, Ms. Striplin? You done?
Not a question, just I like the way Mr. Rasmussen phrased the bigger picture. I think we're recently under new administration. This is a whole different ballgame, and there's so many issues in our district that we want to address. And might we be better served taking a little bit more time to look at the entire picture and seeing what needs to be moved, without just displacing people that are seriously going to suffer from this move. I know we all want to get the kids out of PACE. I think that's just a top priority, and I know Lively being more efficient is a top priority. But if we can look possibly take a little more time to analyze all the needs in the district and maybe come up with a plan that works a little bit better for everyone without completely disrupting one community. And that is what this is. This is not a school. This sounds like a community. These people have situated their lives around this school because that's where these children will be for a while. I've heard about jobs. I like that phrasing of let's look at the bigger picture and maybe take a little bit more time to look at this.
Okay.
I would urge.
All right, I'm hearing many themes here tonight, and that's a good thing, because the communication opportunity to talk with community should have an opportunity to have the many themes. This is very difficult. I think we are feeling that, and that almost goes without saying. It's difficult for all of us. I want to make certain that I know where we're going with this now and how we're leaving this right now. I'm hearing a cost analysis in some detailed form that the board is asking the superintendent to provide. I'm also hearing, I dare not say a look at the mixing of students, but we don't want to mix apples and oranges, or do we? That's not the best way to put it, but it is a way, because that is what we are starting to look like we're starting to do. I'm interested in the success of all of our students, and I want to make sure that our stakeholders get the best that they can get for what we are supposed to give them. I know that we're interested in making sure that the PACE students, our K through 12s that are there, we receive FTEs for them. They do deserve a better house to study in, and they have for some times, and we all have visited all of these places. And so I'm looking at the follow-through, and then I'm thinking a thought that I really don't want to think, but it is about space and following the money, and that doesn't sound good. It really doesn't, but that really is where we are here. And so we're going to have some hard decisions to look at, and we want to be a part of this. We are all in this together. And so I'd like to thank the audience for coming. I'd like to thank the superintendent for his presentation, and thank you, my colleagues, for saying what you think and what you feel. And I believe sooner or later we're going to get to where we will be able to live with the decision that is made. We may not end up liking it, but I hope we can leave respecting the dialogue that we're engaging in as we try to get where we go. So I see some head nods. Thank you all for being here tonight, and I expect that I'll be seeing you again. Thank you so much. With that being said, we're going to move on in our agenda tonight, and I believe that takes us down to the superintendent spotlight.
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. And proud to have with us tonight our Teacher of the Year, our School-Related Employee of the Year, and our Glenn Howell Distinguished Educator of the Year. At this time, I'm going to ask Ms. Kim McFarland if she would come forward from Roberts Elementary School to introduce a proud member of her staff who's going to receive the Glenn Howell Distinguished Educator of the Year. Ms. McFarland.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
Well, as I was standing here and I was thinking about how to introduce Mrs. Connor, our theme for this year is learning is our superpower. And I started thinking about Carmen, and really leadership is Carmen's superpower. She is amazing, and she leads by example. There's nothing she asks our staff to do that she wouldn't do herself, but she also leads with enthusiasm, and she's innovative. So I think that's what makes her so special, and it helps make our school so special. So I'd like to introduce Mrs. Carmen Connor.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Carmen Connor, the assistant principal at Roberts Elementary, and it's just an honor to be before you all this evening. And I just want to take just a couple of minutes to say that it is very easy to do my job when you work in such a wonderful place and have a principal that values what you do. And she just, from the moment that I've been at Roberts, she just has valued what I do and encouraged me to do anything. And I'm really creative and kind of out there sometimes. And she's like, yeah, do it. And that's a beautiful thing to work with someone like that. In addition to that, it's a beautiful thing to work with such wonderful teachers and awesome students. It is a joy every day when I drive to work to say that I'm going to a place where I am happy and where I just get so much out of what I give. My students, every day I get a hug, I get kind words over and over, and it's just a great place to be. So what I do is effortless when you work with such wonderful people, and I'm grateful to be at Roberts Elementary and to be a Red Fox. Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations, Ms. Connor. And at this time, I'd like to bring up Dr. Christopher Small, who will introduce both the Teacher of the Year and the School-Related Employee of the Year. Wow. So good things going on at Springwood.
Good evening. I have the honor and privilege of introducing two very important and dynamic women that are part of Leon County School, one of which has been at Springwood since the doors opened in 1987, and another Miss Jessica Hooker, who is our district's Teacher of the Year. Both of these young ladies bring their heart each and every day. I think when you enjoy and love what you do, it makes it that much easier to do what you do each and every day. And they don't necessarily go for accolades. It's not always about the title, but doing what needs to be done in the best interest of kids. And so I have the honor and privilege of introducing Miss Jessica Hooker. If you'll come up, and Miss Kathy Cantrell.
It's such an honor to be here. I love Springwood. I do. Everyone knows that. This has been quite a journey. 29 years at the same desk.
Wow.
I don't know how many people really get to say that. My legacy is the hug. And ever since January 27th, 25th, when I received this award, I have received thousands of hugs. The love, oh girl, I'm serious. Thousands of hugs from children, former children at Springwood, former teachers. The journey has been amazing, and I'm so honored to be in the company of these two beautiful women. Thank you.
I never got it.
1001.
Well, I just want to begin by thanking you guys for the opportunity to be here tonight. Superintendent Hannah, it's just been a whirlwind, like Mrs. Cantrell said. The past 2 months have been humbling. It's been really amazing experience to be recognized not only by your peers at your school, but by your district. Teachers work really hard, and the teachers at Springwood work the hardest. And I am very thankful to be a part of such a wonderful school with great administrators, great staff. The process of winning Teacher of the Year has been wonderful and probably the highlight of my life. Sorry, honey. But to share in this moment with someone like Mrs. Cantrell has made it that much sweeter. My journey to get to this point has allowed me the opportunity to work in a lot of leadership roles throughout the county and at the district. I have worked with many of our teachers in Leon County, and I stand here proud to say that there are so many teachers in our county who are just as deserving, if not more deserving than I am, of this award. So I don't take this lightly. I am so appreciative of it, and I feel like I'm just getting started in Leon County, so you'll be seeing more of me, hopefully. And I just want to thank you, and I'm so appreciative, and thank you.
Thank you. Just before we come down front, I think for a picture, is that what Chris is saying? Ms. Hooker said, and no offense, honey, would the honey stand up that you were referring to?
That's my husband.
Oh, okay, that honey, okay.
And my wonderful mother.
And your mother.
And my best friends.
Stand up, mother, stand up, great best friend, please. Come on.
And Mrs. Cantrell's family is here as well.
Ms. Cantrell's family, would you stand?
They're everywhere.
All right, good. Miss Connor's family, would you stand? If there are others, that's it, stand up. We're all family. And now we're going to do a group family picture. Chris wants us all down front. We're going to crowd in there and get this picture. Come on, board members. Oh, I got to put on my clothes now.
That's not gonna
Got it. Chris says that's not gonna work.
Color to sneak in, but yeah, Emily and the, yeah, because you're hiding Emily. There you go, something like that.
Do it. I have strong shoulders. Thank you.
Well, I would just like to say to each one of the winners how fortunate we are in this system, Mr. Superintendent, to have the caliber of teacher and the caliber of employees who work in related other occupations, because that's why we are as good as we are. So give them a hand again, Roll, please. Thank you so much. We really appreciate what you do. We do. All right, item 4, recognitions, that's pulled, I believe. And now we're ready for 501, the District Advisory Council, no report to date.
No Cheryl Collier Brown?
No Carter Brown?
If we can go on with this.
502 District Advisory Council. We've got Emily Blumble here. Blumley.
She always does that.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Certainly.
Unfortunately, due to a lot of scheduling conflicts this time of year.
Give me just one moment, Ms. Blumley, and let me set this up for you so that you can be heard, because your work is so important and you work so hard. And the energy just exudes every time you speak, particularly as Chris closes the door. Great. And so go ahead now, please.
Okay, thank you. So unfortunately, due to a lot of the scheduling conflicts that happen this time of the year, particularly for high school seniors, which makes up most of the SDAC, we have not been able to meet in person, but we have been communicating to establish another meeting date, hopefully soon, probably next week. But we also have been discussing the details of some of our upcoming projects, including the details of our upcoming student town hall ceremony, upcoming student town hall, which we'll have more firm details on for you in the future. But that's all for now.
Well, thank you. Keep up the good work. And now Title I Advisory Council, Marie Claire Lehman, the chair of TAC.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for having me again this month. And I usually rush into my report, and then I regret not thanking all the support that the district is giving the Title I Advisory Council and helping us really get started, from Dr. Hightower, of course, and Mr. Greenberg, and also Miss Jillian Gregory, and before her, Mr. Crow. And all of you school board members. We were really pleased that Miss Lewis Butler was at our last meeting, which was on February 13th at Oak Ridge Elementary. And Miss Roseanne Wood, of course, has come to pretty much every single meeting. And we've made sure to advertise it properly, I'm told, so that was not a problem, that you were both there. We were really grateful at the last Title I Advisory Council meeting to be hosted by Oak Ridge Elementary and to have Principal Bruner give us a sense of her priorities for how she allocates her Title I school budget. A great proportion of her funds go towards staff or staffing decisions, extra teachers to reduce class size, paraprofessionals who are there as reading coaches or to help with targeted help for certain students, as well as paying salary for a few teachers to stay after school in the winter months, I guess, end of January and February, to help grades 3, 4, and 5, targeted students in grades 3, 4, and 5 prepare for state testing. Some schools call this FSA camp. And then another portion of, a smaller portion of her budget goes to technology, so software for students, and then classroom supplies, professional development, and parent involvement. At this meeting, we had a very interesting Title I update from Dr. Hightower with the help of Ms. Billingsley. We had provided them a few questions ahead of the meeting that we really wanted answers to, and they were really thorough in providing us those answers. It was very interesting. We had questions concerning year-to-year disbursement of Title I funds, the amounts received by each school, how the allocation to schools has changed over time, how different schools use their Title I funds. Of course, we're hearing that in our updates every month at our meetings. I won't go into detail about this right now, but just so you know, the information was very helpful to our process. One thing that I do want to bring up tonight is that we had also asked for a school-by-school, Title I and non-Title I schools, breakdown of the revenue from fundraisers. And I think that as a group, we found this information very helpful, enlightening, and informative, because as you would suspect, it's much more challenging to raise money in a Title I school, since by definition, the majority of the students at a Title I school come from low-income families. But to give you some context to that, in 2015-16, the range of that fundraising amount went from just over $14,000 at our Title I elementary school that raised the least, to 246,000 at our elementary Title I school. This is elementary schools, at our elementary school that raised the most. And I'm not trying to disparage the great efforts of the schools that do raise that much money and all of the, it's a generosity of the community. And I'm not really, don't misunderstand me, but I think it's important to look at these numbers. And I should say that in this particular contrast, the school, the elementary Title I school has a much lower population by about, you could probably double the amount if you expected to double the amount if you doubled the population, if you see what I mean. But that's still 28,000, not nowhere near what we're seeing at other elementary schools. And then that school is somewhat of an outlier, so I'm also going to tell you that the next two Title I schools at the low end of the scale raised 25,000 and 31,000. So that's quite a bit higher, but still, again, a long ways away. And I know that we are short on time. I feel like I have lots of interesting information, and so I don't want to, bore you. But if you have questions about this, I know I'm not boring you. Sorry, I didn't mean it that way. But I don't want to prolong this. I think you guys, you women,
Well, yes.
really know where this is going, and I don't have to necessarily belabor the point around these numbers, although I'm happy to. But I think that the really important takeaway is that we can't actually expect Title I dollars alone to make up the difference in wealth and resource disparity that these figures point to. And we're trying to keep this in mind as we work and on Title I issues. And we want to see how the Title I grant can be, perhaps there are efficiency gains that can be made. But we also want to encourage the district to have out-of-the-box thinking in terms of how best to use the wealth of resources that Tallahassee has to offer, and hopefully also come up with more and new ways that the district can support Title I schools. And on that note, for a couple of years now, we've heard the burgeoning of plans for a community school where wraparound services would be available to the school community. And we understand that this may still be in the negotiating stage with the stakeholders that are involved. And actually, this is not something that the TAC has been asked or has yet taken the initiative to weigh in on or to discuss. So I'm not speaking necessarily on the entire TAC's behalf, but I think I can say with quite a bit of certainty that we would like to be at the table, as many of our concerns for Title I school communities intersect with the issues that a community school would address. Just wanted to invite you to our next meeting, which is next Monday at Griffin Middle School. It's a week early this month because of March break being the second week of the month. And we will be focusing on teacher recruitment and retention in our whole group discussion. And subsequently, just to give you an idea, we also have decided that we will be at the following meetings talking about school readiness, parent involvement, health issues, and classroom environment. And I'm really happy to take questions if you have any.
Thank you so much. I hate that you feel anxious and a little rush. We don't mean to do that. So
no, you don't.
Are you feeling better? Okay.
Yeah, you don't. No, I'm.
Okay.
This is so. I'm passionate about this,
Wonderful.
and I don't want to assume that
And
it should take up too much space. So
that's fine.
Okay.
Very well, Mr. Superintendent.
Real quick, do you all understand when she's talking about the money? Have you explained as far as your numbers and the money, what dollars you're talking about, and how they're generating those funds?
Which funds?
The fundraising.
Yeah, this
dollars.
is separate from district funds. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. No, exactly. It's not. It has nothing to do with what the district is allocating to each of the schools. Of course, the district allocates, as I understand it, of base funding to all schools, and then with Title I money, we're able to disperse even more to our Title I schools. However, of course, the federal government through the state gives us that grant, and I guess my point is simply that it doesn't come close to
individual fundraising efforts at those
Right.
other sites.
Yeah,
Right.
and but more to the point, I think those fundraising successes give us a glimpse of more than just the money that's available for spending at the school, but also of the school community that supports that school and of the resources that each individual child at those schools has access to, the resources those children have access to beyond, what you would fundraise for a school. But this is the reality of our Tallahassee schools, where we have this very wide disparity.
Madam Chair.
And Ms. Rasmussen, then Luz Butler.
When I assume our finance office or somebody gave you a run of fundraisers in the form of whatever goes through our internal accounts at our schools, right? So this would include, or would it, Mr. Superintendent, does it include all the fundraisers the parents are doing for band boosters and baseball boosters?
So an example, yes, ma'am, I believe so. And, well, I'm not sure about the clubs and booster groups or sports and other activities, if those numbers included. I don't know, who do you get your numbers from?
Ms. Billingsley, I think, would know.
It does not include that. Meryl, you want to speak to that?
Back. Yep.
And while he's coming up, my point would be, I want to be careful when we say the Title I dollars don't compare to the dollars being raised by our parents and our community, because clearly, when your kid is playing a specific sport and you have to raise money for that to happen, or a band uniform or whatever, those parents are going to be strong participants while their child is in that particular club or in that particular area, and then when they graduate, the next set of parents comes along to support their own children. And I want to make sure I'm clear on which monies are in whatever list she received. And then I would like to know, how does that compare to the additional Title I resources that our schools get? And then in a minute, I'll tell you something about the community school, but go ahead.
Was that a question?
Mr. Wimberly, were you going to answer the question about what amounts are in those lists that she has?
These are the internal accounts. So anything that happened at the school that went through internal accounts would be there. It would not include such as a booster group. Those normally don't go through internal accounts.
But it would include internal accounts for cheerleading or
Yes.
for dance or for extracurricular, co-curricular, and athletics.
Yes, and a good example, I think, every year at, I think it's Deer Lake, they go to New York, I believe. So the parents will raise money themselves, or they'll pay for it themselves, and that'll go through internal accounts. That's an example.
So a parent paying for their child's trip to New York goes through that account, and that's considered fundraising. And I hear where you're going. I just was I want to make sure we're really clear on what we're talking about. And I would like to see, on the flip side, what are the resources that Title I schools get that non-Title I schools don't get?
Do you happen to have the cost report that shows total costs, including the federal and general?
We got that one.
Did they get that for you?
And we don't have to do that now.
Well,
So-
what I want to get for her is, and we meant to, and I don't know that we got around to it. If you look at the cost, when you include the federal programs and the general programs, you'll see that those Title I schools get proportionally more per student that way. Yes, so it's,
And do they get weighted FTE from the state too, or no?
yeah, it's, you combine the two and it shows they get more per student
Okay.
because they get more federal funds. It only makes sense.
Right. Okay.
Can I just add?
Yes,
Because
of course.
I don't mean to suggest that Title I funds should be replacing what we can't raise in fundraising. What I'm pointing to is the great need in Title I schools. If you compare resources for the non-Title I school communities and where they're able to go get resources, Title I schools are not in that position. I don't think that the Title I funds should be compensating for that difference. It's more of an exercise
inequity
to
there.
illustrate the inequity. And the children who attend the Title I schools don't have the resource-rich, experience-rich life that, I don't need to tell you all this, but I think that this is important.
And you're not even quantifying, if I might, Madam
Yeah,
Chair, you're
go
not even adding in there parent volunteer hours. I mean, I remember I have
That would
two-
be fun to look at.
Yeah, I have two schools that, as the crow, in my district, that as the crow flies, they might be a couple miles apart. And one of them has 700 parent volunteers every year, and the other one can barely get 10. So
There are lots of indicators that would be really useful to have.
I don't know where this is going to land, but I can tell you, and you may have been there, in the Senate last week, the University of Central Florida has a Center for Community Schools, and they were presenting their appropriations requests to expand to add an additional community school. And Senator Simmons actually mentioned specifically that Leon County was on the list, asking to be that new community school. So if they are successful in getting that grant this year, which they weren't a couple of years ago when they first applied, that could put us in a different position. I don't know how the superintendent feels about that, but that's just a bit of backdrop.
And I appreciate that information. I didn't want to jump the gun, but I had a very good meeting with Commissioner Ziffer and representatives from the Children's Home Society. And we're very encouraged that we're going to actually receive that seed money this year and make it happen and put politics aside and let's work together as a community to do what's best for our children.
And I don't want to speak out of turn because the Title I Advisory Council hasn't tackled this issue at all, but I think that we are initially cautious about focusing on just one school and hope that whatever is done in that initial project is something that we intend to replicate for all the school communities that are needed. I guess I am talking out of turn, but I think it's important to have that in our minds as we proceed.
Right, and I think it's also important to, I'm sorry, Ms. Lewis Butler, go ahead and I'll speak last.
Okay, it was a good report the other night at Oak Ridge. You did a good job. Thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
I was going to ask the superintendent, Hannah, about, I've been talking about data, collecting data, and all different programs, I guess May or June, whatever you decide, that you can give this board data from programs, projects that's working in our schools, and we can collect written data about what's going on. I is working with all schools, and then we can see. I'm a visionary person, so I like to see the data collected at the end each year of all programs
I think that's,
and projects.
yes, ma'am. I heard you say that earlier. Once I was sworn in, and we will collect data on any program. We have a lot of programs, but it's good. It's good to monitor what we're doing to make sure to see the successes, and then also to see where we can do better.
Right. Thank you.
Was somebody else going to say something, Ms. Wood?
Just one thing. I think what I heard you saying is, as part of the community decision, whatever comes with that the Title I committee would like a seat at that table.
Right.
Is that what you were asking for?
I think it's important because I think that the discussion that we are trying to, or the recommendations that we're trying to bring to you really go hand in hand with a project like that.
Right, they do. I totally agree with that. And, Ms. Rasmussen mentioned band uniforms and parents paying for that. And that's one of the things I hear about a lot at Title I schools is the band uniforms don't look so good because they don't have parents who can write a check for that. And so it is a issue. I think it's a community issue. It's not necessarily just a school board issue. It's an issue that we really need to address with the Chamber of Commerce and everybody else in town to talk about how we can help schools that, don't have the advantages that some other schools have.
Mm-hmm. I certainly agree with all comments that have been made. My one concern is we work to meet the needs of these students who are in need is that whatever we do, whatever we say, if we make promises, we keep them. I'd hate to have us out there with some, I'm in the tunnel now, and now you blow the light out. You said it, I could have it, but now it's gone. So I'm glad to know that you and your group will serve as the watchdogs so that once these things come to be for real, they can really be for real, because I think that hurts the community more than it helps it. So promises will be kept, and I know that I cannot speak for folk who are making promises, but to guard the hearts of our students and the self-esteem of communities such that once we start to wrap around, we really will wrap around and have these things happen. So, Mr. Superintendent, I ask that you continue to be yet a watchdog over that for particularly the have-nots who are being left further behind. Thank you. Excellent report. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Opening nights, performing arts in Leon County Schools, Kennedy Center Partners to Education Program. Mr. Shane.
I want to thank the superintendent and our board members for always making sure that Leon County Schools continues the arts. I think I've seen every one of you talk to how important the arts are to our students. So tonight it is my pleasure to set forth a memo of understanding with the Kennedy Center and Leon County Schools and extend a partnership that we've had over a couple of years with Appalachia Elementary School and broaden that partnership to our Performing Arts Middle School, Raw Middle School. This program is going to expose our students to some amazing artists and provide professional development for our teachers from those artists to enhance their classrooms. I'd like to introduce to you Mr. Chris Hecox, and he is our partner through FSU, Opening Nights, and the Kennedy Center, and he's going to tell you a little bit more about our partnership.
Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for having me this evening. Many of you have been to our performances on and off campus at Florida State University through Opening Nights Performing Arts, and you see the level of artistry that we bring here to campus, and it's very well publicized in our community and it's very well publicized in our region. But one of the things that maybe kind of falls off of the press's radar is our commitment to community engagement, campus engagement, and education in our community. And this is one program. When I arrived here in Tallahassee to take over the program in 2012, reinforcing, enhancing, and moving our educational programs was a priority. And looking at national and regional partnerships was one of the first things that I did. This partnership is actually one of two national programs through the Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts in Washington, D.C., which is our nation's performing arts center. The other one is Any Given Child. This one is Partners in Education. And we're very proud to be awarded this partnership in 2014 and start the partnership with Appalachia Tapestry Magnet School for the Arts. And what it is it is a program that brings national artist teachers to provide professional development to our teachers here in Leon County to teach strategies in arts integration so that they can go with an additional set of tools to teach our students other ways of learning in STEM-based fields. So we have about 2 years worth of relationships and data and work with Iris and her teachers. And so being able to expand this to some of the other schools is fantastic. It's something I'm very excited about. But I did want to make sure to have Dr. Wilson come up here and tell you about what we have already accomplished in these 2 years and kind of what we're moving forward with as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Superintendent, board members. It's my pleasure to always talk about Appalachia. But what we've been able to do with this partnership with Opening Nights and the Kennedy Center has made a tremendous difference for our students. Appalachia is a Title I school. And without the support that we have, our children would not have the experiences they've been able to have with performers coming in, with artists being there, and to have these artists to work with our teachers and help them develop strategies to encourage, to motivate our children to read, to do science. We had an artist to come in, and one of our children took off with that and did their science project from it. An artist came in and did poetry, and our children were able to improve their writing and their reading comprehension. So it's not just doing the arts, but it's integrating the arts through all of our core subjects and to give our teachers that support they need, because they may not be artists, to be able to go into the classroom and to use those strategies. So we look forward to continuing this partnership. We appreciate you supporting it and making sure that our school continues to provide for our students the things that they need to close that gap in learning. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wilson.
Good evening, Giselle Marsh, Principal, Raw Middle School. And I have to say, last summer I had the opportunity, Dr. Wilson invited me to Appalachia, and I was able to spend some time with Glennis Redmond, who's the poet. She was just speaking of. And as soon as I left, I was there 20 minutes. As soon as I left, I got on the phone and tried to figure out how do I get this person at my school. And it was just so exciting and thrilling and wonderful. And just the environment she created for learning, for our teachers learning. And so when I found out we'd be part of this opportunity, I was so excited. And my teachers already are as well. So we look forward to starting up this summer, getting our teachers just involved and interested and having those artists come into our school just to add to our excellent arts teachers that we already have at Raw. So we're really excited about the opportunity, so thank you for adding us in.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ms. Marsh.
I just want to close by saying this program encompasses all teachers. It's not just the art teacher, the band teacher, and the chorus teacher. They are teaching our language arts teachers, our social studies teachers, all of the teachers, and they're helping them and put the arts into their classroom. And we all know if class is fun, kids will like it better. So we really appreciate our partnership with the Kennedy Center. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Rasmussen.
Just briefly, I think it bears noting that on the Oscars the other night, there was an actor who was one of the winners who credited public education and his arts education, and that our own Leon graduate, Leon from Leon High School, presented one of the awards, and that the winners of the Picture of the Year are from Florida. So
yes,
we have a lot to be proud of. And Florida State University
Barry
Films,
Jenkins,
that's right.
just a student I happen to know before I left Florida State,
There you go.
but greatness is just there. So it is important. It really is. Thank each of you for what you do. Thank you, Mr. Heacock. Thank you, Shane, Ms. Marsh, and Dr. Wilson, to integrate this kind of experience with the learning. Our students do really, really excel even better.
Yeah, Miss
Madam Lewis.
I was just thinking when Dr. Wilson was talking, I liked the way Dr. Wilson came in to that school as a principal and took the ball and just kept building up on it, because I remember being on this board. I was one of the ones that met with the teachers that put the tapestry program there at that school. And they met with me and said it was a good thing, and it's been rolling ever since. And I thank you, Dr. Wilson, for what you've done. I watched you over the years carry through. I've been there too.
Good. So she's watching you. All right. Okay. All right. And now we're ready for the elementary school grading updates. Jillian Greger and Dr. Alan Cox.
Interesting. Good evening, school superintendent, school board members. It is my distinct pleasure to present to you an update regarding the elementary school grading process that you brought forward in the January school board retreat. Since that time, we've met with the school principals on February 10th, and we discussed with them several topics and asked them three questions to frame our conversation. The first question is, do you think the use of our current report card structure is working? The next question was, do you have concerns as practitioners about the use of letter grades D and F in the primary grades, and primary grades for the purpose of our audience, so grades K1 and 2. And then what changes, if any, would you like to see implemented for the 2017-18 school year, the 2018-19 school year, and then school years beyond? Uniformly, I can report from the February 10th meeting that principals voiced concerns about changing practices for the 2017-18 school year. They emphatically informed me of the practice that was undertaken when they began applying letter grades A, B, C, D, F in primary grades in 2011-12. And that included significant work with stakeholders, including teachers. They felt by implementing a change in 2017-18 that there was too little time to meet with teachers to discuss the changes that would be necessary. In addition, there was not consensus about what would be used in lieu of an F grade. Currently, the school students as young as kindergarten do earn an F if they are not able to demonstrate mastery of the concepts that are taught. And so when that part of the conversation was brought forward, there was not consensus by the principals about what would be used if we did not use an F letter grade for that issue, for that particular type of situation.
The principals did, however, discuss an interest in working on this issue in the 2017-18 school year for any change implementation for the 18-19 school year. There is interest in discussing the current grading practices, including the use of A, B, C, D, F, as well as our current grading structure, which is 80% assessment, 20% classwork, homework, or other assignments. And there is interest in moving to a standards-based report card for school years 2018-19 and beyond. At the conclusion of our conversation, the principals were tasked to leave that principals meeting and discuss with their own teachers, their own grade level teams, what the teachers felt and what the perceptions the teachers had, and that they would report back to us through a survey. The feedback that I have received kind of qualitatively, not related to the survey, is that at the teacher level that there is not significant interest in changing letter grades for the 17-18 school year, but at the teacher level they do want to revisit the topic in a deliberative fashion during the next school year. Subsequent to that February 10th meeting, I facilitated conversation at the February 23rd APC meeting. The APCs are the assistant principals of curriculum at the elementary level. That is all the assistant principals. Uniformly, the assistant principals of curriculum voiced concerns that they did not want to rush to change things for the 17-18 school year. Multiple APCs acknowledged concern with the use of F in grade K particularly. However, there was not consensus about what would be used in lieu of an F for students who were not able to demonstrate proficiency on a standard. Emphatically, all of them wanted to discuss something during the 17-18 school year to implement for 18-19. But again, they weren't as sure of an implementation of a standards-based report card. They wanted more time to look at samples and discuss instructional implications. Then on February 23rd, we administered a survey to principals. To date, we have received 22 responses of the 24 sitting principals. 85% of them do not want to revisit the use of letter grades K2 for the 17-18 school year. 84% do not want to revisit the use of letter grades for second graders at all. 70% do not want to revisit the use of letter grades for first graders at all. 65% do not want to revisit the use of letter grades for kindergarteners. With that being said, 60% of the elementary principals would like a standing committee to review elementary report card practices and to discuss deliberative changes, potentially for the 2018-19 school year. And of all respondents, 82% of them indicated that they would like to serve on such a district committee. That is my current report to be heard regarding elementary school grading.
Ms. Rasmussen.
You mean to tell me that 6 months isn't sufficient time to reconsider this is not rocket science. I mean, I respect educators and I respect that they're in the trenches right now, and I'm not. But 6 months, we have 6 months till school starts. That's all I'm going to say.
Ms. Wood.
I appreciate you talking to the principals about this. Of course, they're on the ground, and since I was one of those ones on the ground, I never liked the school board telling us what to do.
Of course.
The same time, as Superintendent Rocky Hanna said tonight, change can be hard. And I know they went through a lot of change to get to this point, and there was a reason for it. But I'll just have to keep saying this. I think it is a moral issue to have an F grade on a kindergarten or first grade report card. So to me, this goes beyond being a pragmatist. This goes to what is right. And, if they say that they can't get something before next year, that surprises me that we couldn't at least do something for kindergartners. I have suggested that we do something like a not yet, because we know that 5 and 6-year-olds are developing at very different speeds and very different levels. And I think the idea of putting an F on a 5-year-old's report card is just wrong. And so as this school board member sits, to me, that is not an acceptable answer, just not. I'm fine with, working on for 2017 year, a new whole report card and looking at standards-based. I'm all behind that, but it's going to be hard for me to swallow that we can't change, at least for the kindergartners, for next year.
Agreed.
Further comments? Mine are.
First, she's just giving the report, so this isn't directed at you. So I think this is directed at me. So
I mean, I can certainly respond.
Now I know why.
I mean, I'll answer. I think I've had statements and not questions, so I can.
Okay, well, let me
just made a
finish, please. May I just ask my question so that I'm not confused, and it's dangerous when I'm confused. What were the thoughts, the reason, the rationales that principals felt that an F at a kindergarten level would be an encouraging thing to keep me learning?
So I think the letter grade assigned to the academic work is separated from the psychosocial benefit of the letter grade.
I'm sorry, say that again.
So I think the letter grade is
yes.
assigned to the academic work and not to the psychosocial benefit of a letter grade. So for example, an F is not motivating.
No, it's not.
We can acknowledge that.
So let's talk about, help me, I'm confused. So you're not worried about my what was that word?
Psychosocial. Let me be clear.
I'm not attacking you.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to understand.
So I'm not saying we're not worried about that. And I think it's an important nuance to understand. There is a lot of hand-wringing and discomfort with an F. But until we can develop a system by which we can most appropriately inform parents of their students' progress, what is the uniform sense is that parents understand what an F means. There's less clarity on the parent as receiver of information about the difference between a not yet, an N, a U, unsatisfactory, a D, developing. Those letters can all mean something slightly different.
Right.
And so where we are today is that given the high level of expectations for students in grades 3, promotion and retention, that in second grade, these schools are very comfortable with assigning letter grades. And in first grade, because of the push of the expectations of students down from second grade to first grade over the last several years, what used to be a second grade expectation is now a first grade expectation. First grade is okay to receive letter grades. Parents need to have a clear sense of how their students are doing. Uniformly, kindergarten gives everybody heartburn. That is, no one feels good about giving a grade of an F to a 5 or 6-year-old in kindergarten.
Then let me ask this question. It might help me to be on the same page that I think you're trying to put me on. Then at what point and where is the high level of expectation shown?
For the students?
Yes.
So every grade level has high expectations.
When a kindergarten is given an F.
And so what happens when the students are receiving an F grade, it's because the students are not demonstrating mastery of the standards. And unfortunately, in our district, we want our parents to have a clear sense of what a student is able to do.
Right.
And until we can get to a place where on a report card or in some other way we can message to them that their child is not making progress,
right.
This is the proxy measure we're using.
Yes, I understand that. And let me take it one step further. You can see I'm very confused. Say Miss Marie Claire Lehman was just up here talking about Title I schools and the needs and the differences and the experiences that cause some students to be here and some to be there. And I'm just trying to put all of this together to fully understand what we're doing, throughout our county to help students rise to a level of expectation that they can do. That's all. I don't think that sounds disjointed. It sounds clear to me, but help me.
Madam Chair.
Okay, hang on one second. Okay.
So I think you're asking me, like, what are the things we're doing instructionally to support the student's success? And so, of course, we have lots of different types of interventions that students are engaged in, and those interventions are there to support the student so they do not get an F. So a student earning an F is not getting an F because the student is not turning in their homework. The student is not getting an F because the student is not engaging in different levels of intervention and support. A student earning an F is a student who is failing to make progress despite all of these levels of support that are applied to the student. And those include pullouts, push-ins, small group instruction, differentiate, all these different things. At the end of the day, though, if a student is not demonstrating mastery of the content of the standards that are administered during a particular grading period, at this point in time, the student earns an F on their report card.
What age is, I'm sorry, I'm getting caught up in this, but age 5 is kindergarten? Age 5?
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Jillian, for that. I think you've done a great job. I love that we actually polled our principals and our,
Yeah, that's
our awesome employees and said, what do you guys think? And it seems like overwhelmingly, we all kind of agree with the same thing, that should not be happening. My first question is, do they really use the words mastery in kindergarten statutes related to those standards? Because it's my understanding it's a more encouraging language. They don't use the word mastery for a kindergartner.
So are you asking a statute question or what we do in Leon County
Yes,
Schools?
no, in statute, do they use the word, so for Florida standards, do they use the word mastery for kindergarten?
I could not answer that question. I don't have them memorized. I'll have to go back and review them and answer you via email. I don't know off the top of my head.
It's my understanding they don't. So we might want to take a look
But
at
I
that.
don't think any of the grade levels use the word mastery. It's the assessment that occurs in the classroom that determines mastery. So for example, it will say, student will be able to calculate integers. It doesn't say master integers. It will say we'll be able to calculate integers. So that mastery is determined at the school level. Have they met it? Are they approaching it? Have they exceeded it? Has it not yet been taught? And so the mastery component is really the instruction that occurs in the classroom. The standards themselves discuss concepts, big ideas and key concepts. And so I don't know that the word master is used. I'll check on that. I'm not completely certain.
I think we're also used to talking about, high schoolers and middle school when it gets really serious. We're talking about 5-year-olds here. So I would say that we do away with the word mastery for kindergartners and use more words like support and promote. And I would recommend possibly that I know we've done a lot of where we look at other districts and what are they doing instead of reinventing the wheel. Is it that many other districts in our state are doing something of the ESNU or whatever, and could we adopt that in time for them to implement that in the summer? And that would be a question. Could we do that?
So I think just to be clear, first off, there's programming that has to happen with technology, right? And so our computers are printed based on a computer. So there's some lead time that we need for that. Put a pin in that. That's something that's probably 30 days that we need to do that. So that backs us out so we need to have it ready by August 1, so July 1. So could we do something in March, April, May, and June? Superficially, we absolutely can. We can bring in the principals in March. We can then bring in the assistant principals in April and May. We can bring in the teachers in April and May. But part of being collaborative is making sure that we hear their concerns. So if we're beginning the conversation already with the end in mind, our stakeholders feel that it's a disingenuous process. And so what I'm hearing uniformly is that we would like to move away from the application of F, but the practitioners are saying they're not there yet. And what we would need to do as a school community to be collaborative is to engage them in conversations and really kind of pick out why aren't we there yet? What can we use in place of this? And as we know, building a sense of consensus takes time. And so we can go and mandate something, but if we go and mandate something, the data would indicate that that is absolutely a mandate. The practitioners would not be part of the process and the collaboration of that. So if we want to be deliberative and collaborative, that's going to take some time with teachers. I mean, we have 24 elementary schools. We would have to meet with varying levels of teachers. This would include this is secondary to, we would have to train them on the new report card. So that means we're going to have to bring them in off of contract in June or July and bring them in and train them on how to use the new report card.
So would this be, I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, would this be the same as changing the culture that
Mm-hmm.
period? Huh?
Well, it would appear that based on the data we have, that the culture is, while not pleased and happy with using Fs, that there is not an appetite for changing that for 17-18. There is, however, and I know later on in the evening we're going to have a presentation on the student information system. No matter what, in 2018-19, we're going to a new report card, because we're getting a new student information system. So it's also important to know that we would be changing report cards this August for our community, and then we would be changing report cards again the following year. And so for the student information system process, we will have to, as a function of getting the new program that generates the report card, have to review the report card process. So there's an opportunity to use that to frame and develop the conversations with our practitioners. But I want to be completely clear and transparent. We can make some decisions, and the decisions that you give us as staff, we could execute the technical part of it. We can do that. But the time needed to develop consensus, collaboration, and a sense of support for any changes, that time is only really 3 months, and we're talking probably about 1,000 teachers, 24 schools, 48 administrators, and so that takes some time. But again, technically, the answer, I want to be transparent, that technically we can do it.
Ms. Rasmussen, please.
I think, just speaking for myself, based on what you've said, and I appreciate the thoughtful approach that you've given, and I understand the idea of collaboration and needing to build consensus among all the stakeholders. And I see a couple of elementary principals out there, so I'd love to talk to you. But, so for me, based on what you've just said, especially about changing, my thought would be, if anything, for this year, we limit it just to kindergarten, which is a more manageable amount of folks to talk to. And then, but I wanted to ask a question. You said, I got confused when you said, if they're not making progress in spite of the interventions, I'm talking about kindergartners now, they're going to get an F. And what bothers me about that is the story that I've already told once, but I'm going to tell it again. I went to one of my Title I schools. I went to a kindergarten class, and I saw these precious children who were just working their hearts out. And their teacher said to me, they have come from 0 to 50, and I still have to give them an F. 0 to 50 is progress. That's not mastery, right? But it's progress. So maybe I'm confused on what you were saying, but I'm just trying to
So I think,
how can we communicate to the parent that little Johnny has made unbelievable progress? Please don't be disheartened by this grade.
So I think that story and brings up another piece to elementary report cards, which is grading.
That's my piece.
And so the grading piece of this is the kind of another leg in the stool. We've discussed this at the retreat, the notion of the 80-20. Some of our schools, what is 80% assessment, 20% classwork, homework, or other assignments? This 80% of assessments, what is the assessment? Is it only chapter tests and quizzes? Is it chapter tests, quizzes, and portfolios? Is it chapter tests, quizzes, and projects? And so to your point, School Board Member Rasmussen, it really is a complicated issue, because what is an F? Is an F the lowest of 50, or is it a 0? Those are the kinds of collaborative conversations that it would be appropriate to have with the practitioners, because that is also part of it. Is what does the student get? Now, to the second piece is I do want to just take a moment and just discuss the parent conferences. And so we know with students in kindergarten, all kindergarten students are required to have a parent conference at the end of the first quarter. So no grade is awarded at the end of the first quarter, and the parents are to be brought in. And essentially the conversation is around how much the child is loved and where the student's skills are. And it's a frank conversation about where the students' skills are in terms of the expectations for that grade level.
Be curious about how the level of parent participation at Title I schools.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
And
Ms. Liz Butler,
Sorry.
let her ask
Yeah,
something.
good job. I want to thank you for your data and research. I wanted to put emphasis on what Mr. Rasmussen was talking about, the kindergarten. Would that be a pilot for 17-18 year?
For a pilot would suggest only some of our students in schools would be doing a different grading system. And so from a technical perspective, I would have to check with GIS, but I do not believe our current student information system allows for Rudiger and Riley to have one type of report card and Appalachia.
So just the kindergarten all the way there, all the kindergarten.
It would have to be all kindergartners in the schools.
Ms. Wood, then Mr. Superintendent, please.
Superintendent first.
And because of the letter grade, and now if we're gonna select the kindergarten, we will use A, B, C, D, F as letter
That is our
grades.
current state, is we use A, B, C, D, F. The question you would direct us, the superintendent would, on what we would do
Not
differently.
mastering though, we don't wanna use that word.
We do not have the capacity right now to move to a standards-based report card in 17-18. There is a potential, depending on the SIS we choose to replace Genesis, to move to a standards-based report card in 18-19. But we cannot do a standards-based report card that's generated automatically in 17-18.
Okay.
Mr. Superintendent.
We're not finished with this. I can assure you. This was a report to be heard. She gave a report on some of the information she's collected since November 22nd when we brought this issue forward. We're not finished with this issue, but we don't want to also rush because so long it was sixth grade was the stopping point. The buck stopped in sixth grade, and then we reeled it back with a lot of input and talking to a lot of principals and a lot of people. So we just want to make sure we're getting all the information from the stakeholders, whether it's the principals, the teachers, the parents, before we make this decision. But I can assure you, we're not finished with this because it was a concern of mine as well. You know, the A through F grades for K2 were something I was concerned with, and I was even more concerned with 80% being based on assessment and the pressure that was putting on our kids. And I'm finding out we're doing lots of different things. So it's now February. Is today February 20? What is today?
28th.
February 28th. I would imagine this is going to continue. We may talk a little bit more about it on Thursday at our workshop and continue to have these discussions and talk through it and see where we end up in, before the end of the school year to implement something even for next year.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. And thank you, Jillian. We appreciate that. I believe we have a speaker. Oh, we haven't gotten the last part of the report, have
no.
we?
No, he has another report.
We're doing recess next, so
We're doing right.
good times.
All right, then.
She's still smiling.
Great.
Sorry,
Come on
Jillian,
up.
that was not intended to
Thank
be
you.
a
No,
grilling.
thank you. Good report, Jillian. We do appreciate you. Well, before Dr. Cox, my mistake, there is a speaker who wants to talk about school grading, I believe. Meredith Miles. Meredith? And then I think we're ready for you. Let me make sure.
Mirrors like Sears.
Mirrors like Sears. There you
Sure.
And I meant to put that on there, and I totally forgot.
Well, thanks a lot.
Do you want me to do the whole?
No, go ahead.
Okay. I really appreciate what Jillian had talked about because the survey is very important, especially for those of us as parents as well, who are concerned about this. When my daughter, who's now in third grade, was in kindergarten, it started the A through F grading system, and I was really upset by it. And as a parent who volunteered, who was blessed to be able to volunteer in her children's classrooms, I heard a lot of these kindergarten teachers asking the question, how are we going to grade these children? It's very unfair, and how are we going to grade these children? You have these kids who may have never been in a classroom before, who are trying to adjust, and they have behavioral issues, or children who stress out easily over a certain test that they have to do online that they didn't realize was just supposed to be for fun. There's a lot of adjustments with the kindergartners, and I really hope that you do look for the 2017-18 year, at least for kindergarten. I mean, I can adjust for first and second grade. Kindergarten, it's very difficult for me to be okay with allowing them to have a grade. And you have teachers that are stressed, as it is, with everything else that's on their table, and having to them trying to figure out, how are we going to grade this kindergartner? And even if you have a student that's actually progressing, kind of like you said, that's progressing, but ends up with an F anyways. I mean, that's devastating to a parent, and it's very difficult to explain to a child as well. So I really hope that you are able to do that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mirrors like Sears. Thank you. Well, we have to laugh occasionally. All right. Is there another speaker here about the grading? Where's Beth Overholt? I saw her. Okay, thank you. All right. Dr. Cox, please.
Okay. Jillian and I actually flipped a coin on who would take school grading in recess, and I won. Let me tell you, There's an organization in the state called SHAPE. It's School Health and Physical Education, and we have several of our physical education teachers that are a member of that, and I'm also a member of it. My wife's actually on their board. But our group hires a lobbyist, and our lobbyist speaks to committee about physical education, health issues, and recess. And so I got a call the other night, and they said, Alan, we've got this parent from Leon County Schools, and she just presented to committee about recess. And man, she's on fire, and she's dynamite. I said, she's this trim, slim, fit lady with dark hair and wears glasses. That's her. It's Marie Claire.
Who rides her bike everywhere.
Yes,
Thanks,
she
Marie.
does.
Appreciate it. Real quick, where are we with recess? We surveyed 20, and we had 24 respondents out of our 24 elementary schools. Y'all have heard this before, but just real quick. 100% of our schools provide recess. 86.36% provided on a daily basis. Now, when I say daily basis, that doesn't mean it's always every day, but they try to provide on a daily basis. 95% provide recess 5 days a week. It doesn't mean it's always 5 days a week, but this was the response we got back. 86% of our schools do not coordinate recess with physical education, so they keep it separate, which is what we want. We want the physical education mandate to stay over here and recess somewhere else. And then 27% of our schools allow teachers to opt out of recess. So when I came on board, I guess about 4 or 5 years ago, I took our wellness policy and we added all the healthy snack legislation. We added just tons of stuff in there, nutrition, staff wellness, school wellness, all that kind of stuff. But I talked to Peggy Youngblood, who had the elementary schools for many, many years, and she said when they were talking about recess, they purposely left it to have some autonomy at the school, some interpretation at the school on how they could implement it. So that was at that time. What I've given y'all, and it's in your packet there, is the language that we have in our procedures, not policy, but in our procedures. And I put the Senate bill in there. The Senate bill just passed, and there's a companion bill on the House side. PTA is on board with this big time. They were last year too when it was defeated, and we're hoping that it'll go through this year. But if you look at it, and then I want to just a couple of things after we go through it. It says at the elementary level, recess periods, and it used to be highly encouraged for daily for students. We changed it and put required. We, as being a little group that I pulled together just to kind of look at this, and involving Kelly too with our policies. Second, students will not be denied recess as a form of academic discipline, whereas it used to just say discipline. And then I just simply put the bill language in there. The district school board shall provide at least 100 minutes supervised safe and unstructured free play recess each week for students in kindergarten through grades 5, so that there are at least 20 minutes of consecutive minutes of free play recess per day. And that's how it currently sits if it goes through that way. I also went out and I called many principals in the last couple of days, and what did they think about the language in there of the required 20 minutes per day, 100 minutes per week. And these are just things to consider. And once again, I'm reporting this, and this is a work in progress, and I would love feedback from y'all through emails or anything, but things to consider when we talk about the requiring it. It's got to happen. It's got to happen that 20 minutes. Well, we have weather that comes into play. And not only one of our elementary schools actually has a gym-it, and the other ones make use of hallways, classrooms, or covered areas to some degree. Covered areas are not good when you have rain that blows sideways, all those kind of things. We have fall and we have spring carnivals. We have multicultural days, music around the world days. We have field trips. We have students that are out while that recess is being offered, and how do we get them the 20 minutes? So those are just some things. I mean, there's nobody more for it than Alan Cox, but we just have to consider those things, and I've got to find some way that I can put that in language. Yes.
Questions, Ms. Wood?
When I think we can help the principals understand, and let me just be sure I'm clear. We're proposing language, we're working on language to get to a recess policy. Is that right, Superintendent? Is that what we're going toward?
He's given information what's in our currently in our procedures, which says that they cannot be denied recess for a form of discipline. So for you to look at that, what we currently have now. And also, when you put something in a hard policy, the implications it could potentially have on a field day or an arts day or or like he said, if a kid's out, do we have to make room elsewhere?
I just want to be sure. So we're working right now from a procedure, and I think at least several of us on the board would like to see this in policy. I'm hoping that, whether the state passes it or not, that we make a stand that we believe in this, and I've heard you say that, Superintendent. I've heard other board members say this. As far as those sort of practical things, I think everyone understands that. The state requires that you have 50 minutes of reading a day, but if you have a all school-wide event, you might not have reading that day, and nobody blinks an eye. Or, there's lots of things that come up that you don't necessarily do everything every single day because you have other things going on. So I don't think that should be a concern at all. If we need to write that in there, no problem. But I don't want it to become an excuse that we say, well, let's just leave it up to the schools, because right now what's happening is some schools, the children get 20 minutes of recess every day, and some schools don't.
Right.
And I want to say this for the principals. I completely understand those schools who don't, and I don't want the public to ever think, well, what's wrong with those principals? They're not letting their kids play. I know that's not why. The reason is there's so much pressure on school grades, on kids getting every second of instruction they can, that they feel that pressure that they just don't have time. And it's kind of counterintuitive, but I know you've read the studies. I've brought the Pediatric Society's most recent paper on it, and the data is clear.
No question.
If students have a break, maybe we should call it reset instead of recess. It cognitively resets your ability to learn, to have an unstructured, free play break. In addition to that, it helps kids learn social emotional skills like creativity and working out things on the playground, which everybody in this room got to do. And it's part of who we are as people. It's learning that at a young age, how to share, how to compete, all those things. And it's not adult directed, it's adult supervised, but it's using those other parts of your brain. So there's actually a elementary school in Texas that I was reading about today that is doing 4 15-minute breaks during the elementary school day, and their test scores are going up. And the teachers are talking about how remarkable it is. So I just think that this is so important, and that we need to give our blessing and our permission to our schools who feel like they don't have time to say, we want you to take that time, and we think our children need that time. So I hope we're not only going to look at a procedure, but that we are going to have a policy coming forward, that we go through the advertising and get all the input we need, and assure the principals that they have flexibility, and that the teachers have some flexibility too. Sometimes little Johnny, they haven't seen him for 2 weeks, and they need to bring Johnny in during recess and catch him up. All those sort of reasonable things, I think the board will go along with, absolutely. But it needs to be specifically not for discipline purposes, like a whole class.
Yep.
Now, if little Johnny was bad and the teacher needs to talk to him during that 20 minutes while everybody else gets to go play, that could be acceptable, but not on a wholesale basis. So I really hope that the superintendent's going to come forward with a policy that we can talk about and then pass.
Right. Actually, I think I'm hearing, Ms. Wood and others, that is where we are right now. We're asking that for this district, we come up with a uniform policy that addresses recess, and to see if we can't get that implemented. I won't say as soon as possible, but certainly never to have recess be seen in a punitive disciplinary kind of way. That's what I'm hearing, Mr. Superintendent.
Yes, ma'am. We're not finished with this one. He was just reporting information.
Good job.
But sooner rather than later.
Yes,
I was going to say, when could we expect to see a policy?
Clear date.
I've given it to the Neola.
And we're talking about for the 2017-2018 school year. I understand that.
Yes.
But just a policy, because the policy takes a while to
I've also given this to Neola Man. He's looking at several of the districts he works with to see where they come.
Orange County has one that provides a little bit of
Right.
leeway in it. But I would just like to be clear that that the superintendent and the board is on board with this to move forward. So, as I know, Ryan Daly's back there and reporting for the Tallahassee Democrat, and we want to make sure that people know that we're not just waiting around for the state on this. So, am I correct, Superintendent?
You're absolutely correct, Ms. Wood. Yes, you are.
Just trying to put you on the spot.
All
there.
right,
Thank you.
Ms. Lewis Butler,
Did a
then
very
Ms.
good job.
Strickland.
Yeah, I was going to relate to Superintendent Hannah. This would be one of your projects right there. We can find out the results, what's going to the data that before recess was put in place with the schools.
Where am I?
And then we can study the data at the end of the year with resets in place.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Strickland?
Thank you. Alan, just real quickly, so what you're giving us here in red, this is proposed language for our procedure. This is not policy. Is this?
That's just procedure.
This is procedure.
Right, but you know, if you can change procedure without going through all the
Right.
advertisement, you know,
Right.
so.
And so this will be, are we voting on this? Is
Not
this?
right now.
No, this is just some,
This is just proposed early. Are we
Information.
waiting till session ends on this?
Y'all let me know, which, I mean, I can move forward on it now. I was hoping to get a little bit more language in regards to some of these, flexibility things.
Orange County has a
I
good.
gotta figure that out.
I think we would all say move forward. I mean, with that, I think many of us have expressed, let's do this and let's not wait. The one thing I would tweak just a little tiny bit, I think you've added in here, the part about, in B, students will not be denied recess as a form of academic discipline. And so I think we're, again, encouraging our teachers, even though you feel like they may need that remediation, they may need, and not so much discipline, but a little bit extra help, please don't, we're encouraging them not to do that because, as Ms. Wood, I love the article, said, give them the playtime, and that actually is boosting their grades. So we want to reinforce that again, that's not only disciplinary, but academic discipline as well. Thank you.
That's good.
Further comments?
Just a question,
Rasmussen?
if the law doesn't change, are we still in a predicament about FTE and developmental play versus, no?
No, we got, I mean, there's 300 minutes a day that we're paid for. The students are there 6 hours and 20 minutes, so that's an hour and 20 minutes of time that they're there that we're
we
not
can-
paid, right.
okay.
And that's how we traditionally have been doing this. Now, you know, that's transition time, that's lunch time, there's a lot of other things in there, but that's how the schools, I see Kim in here, she has 20 minutes every day.
Yes, she does.
Well, and kudos to, I know teachers, David Rudenborg was in the back just a minute ago. He played football every day with his fourth grade class. Our teachers are creative, our principals are creative. So this is, I don't mean at all for this to seem like we're coming down with some kind of hammer. I don't think our teachers and principals don't want to give our kids recess. It's just there are, like, as Ms. Wood said, there are legitimate reasons. But if we can lead by example with this policy, then.
Okay. All right, so this is how I hear we're leaving this. Dr. Cox is going to continue to work, and to the extent that the Neola man, as you all just called Dr. Clapp, is to be involved in this, that will happen. Mr. Superintendent, is that where we are?
Yes, ma'am, and
Thank you.
sooner rather than later.
Yes, sir.
Hopefully the March meeting.
Thank you. It
Forward to
sounds
it.
like the March meeting there wants to be a report heard. It's so wonderful to have wonderful folk working with us.
And if we can implement that recess that quickly, we should probably be able to implement grade change that quickly.
Oh,
for
my
kindergartners, right?
goodness. They are really on it tonight, I tell you. All right, let me see. I think I'm at where are we? Beth Overholt? I think she was going to talk about recess. Yay.
Hi, Beth Overholt, 4130 Faulkner Lane. Thank you, Roseanne, specifically, because you brought up a lot of the points I wanted to say about recess. It's so important for our kids to have a break. I remember when my kids were in elementary school and they were told to walk in a straight line, totally silent. And that just, okay, I get it. We got to get them to the next place. Then it really made me mad, those stupid yacker trackers. It's worse than those little lights up there because they're told at lunchtime to be quiet. Shh, we can't talk during lunch, which is ridiculous. Ridiculous. Little kids need time to work out those relationships. We all get a break. We can get up and walk down to the vending machine or get a drink of water or go to Starbucks and get our coffee, and we can stop by somebody's desk and say hello. our kids need a break too. I was up there at the Capitol and I heard what the recess moms are saying. I would really love it if Leon County could show that leadership and tell them up there that recess is important for our kids and we're not going to wait for them because they're ridiculous. Kids need a break. So I appreciate the thoughtful discussion you guys had tonight. I'm very excited to hear that you wanted to move forward. I know that policy has been presented before. I know that y'all have said you voted for it. So what are we waiting for? Let's do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Overholt. Thank you. Let me see, Maria Claire Lehman, was there an yes, you again. Come on up. We welcome you.
You again.
I want to deprive you of my qualities as a recess advocate. So Marie Claire Lehman, 1911 Walhalla Court. And thank you, Dr. Cox. I feel like one thing that I want to share with you is that the more we talk about recess here at the school board and give it importance, the more the kids are getting recess. I see the change already in the school that my kids go to because we are giving it importance by simply bringing it up and talking about it. I'm not saying that a policy is not needed. I think a policy is very much needed. And why it's needed is for those vulnerable students who are in schools where either they're not getting it daily or they're being teachers and principals are feeling the pressure to withhold recess in order to do just a little bit more academics. I actually feel strongly that kids who not necessarily, obviously, if a child is misbehaving on the playground, you need to remove them and have a chat with them. However, I think that a kid who is misbehaving in the classroom because they can't sit still any longer shouldn't be withheld from recess because it's actually what they need in order to be able to settle in the classroom. So I wouldn't want, I understand the need to add academically to emphasize it, but I don't like the idea of adding academically to limit the term discipline to only academic. And yes, be a leader. And I echo everything, I would like to echo everything that Ms. Wood said. Took the words right out of my mouth, pretty much the entire message that I try to bring to the Capitol when I speak there. And I'd like you to come with me because you're doing a great job. And I think that what's really important is for the teachers to know the principals support recess, and for the principals to know the school board supports recess, and for the school board not to wait on the state to support recess in order to give our kids what they need. Thank you.
Thank you, as always. Okay, no other speakers. We are now at item 6, item of consent. Is there a motion?
Move approval of consent agenda.
Second.
Moved by Rasmussen, second by Strickland. Questions? None. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
It passes unanimously. Item 18.01 is a public hearing adoption where the superintendent recommends, following a public hearing, approval of new policy 5111, students in foster care, effective March 1, 2017. The public hearing. I see no speakers.
No speakers.
No speakers. The hearing is closed. Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Moved by Strickland, second by Wood. Questions? None. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposes, the same. It passes unanimously. 1802, return of donated property. 4 parcels. Mr. Connell?
Good evening.
Good evening.
This item, 1802, came before you last board meeting, and you requested we go out and get some professional opinions on it. In your backup, you do have an opinion from a local appraiser that the property, based on what it would cost us to acquire it, because we truly do not own this property, it's just in our name. And then the value of the property to the district is little to none, that her recommendation is that it would not be a wise decision to do that. I can go into more detail, discuss the parcels again. Are there any questions?
Hearing no question, what is the pleasure of the board?
Move approval.
Second.
Moved by Rasmussen, second by Wood. Questions? None. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
It passes unanimously. 1803.
1803 is for Moore Bass Consulting under their continuing service contract. This is for a school-initiated project, a track at Springwood Elementary School, and their contract is $9,000. They will provide survey, plans, and construction administration.
Move approval.
Moved by, who's that? Stripling, second by Woods. Questions? None? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It passes unanimously.
1804 is for MLD Architects, again under a continuing service contract. This is for Lively, their barbering school renovations, and this is for design of the redesign of the facility for renovations, and their contract is $28,135.
Move approval. Second.
Moved by Stripling, second by Rasmussen. Questions from the group? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. It passes unanimously.
1805 is for Ajax Building Corporation, DeSoto Trails Elementary School. We are finally doing the final paperwork on this, closing that job out. And this item is return of contingency funds, $2,226, or $2,226,568.04.
A lot of money, anyway.
Good, it's returned. Motion. Is there motion?
Move approval.
Moved by Stripling.
Second.
Second by Wood. Questions? None from the group. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
It passes unanimously.
1806 is again Ajax Building Corporation, DeSoto Trails, same project. This is release of retainage, giving them back the funds we've held on them till we close the job out.
Is there motion?
Move
Moved by
approval.
Wood.
Second.
Second by Rasmussen. Questions? None. It passes 5 unanimously.
1807 is for Ram Construction, the Gasvini Gym project. That project has been completed, and again, we're returning their retainage, $89,700.
Returning money. Okay, is there move?
Approval.
Approved by Rasmussen, second by Stripling. Questions? None. All approved, say aye.
Aye.
Opposes, nay. Unanimously passes. 08, 18.
08 is for Great Southern Demolition. This was a bid. We had 3 bidders that responded. This is for a demolition of 11 relocatables at Gilcrest Elementary School, and the contract is $19,800.
Move approval.
Second.
Moved by Rasmussen, second by Wood. Questions from the board? None. All say aye if you approve.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. 09, please.
09 is for Ram Construction. This is change order number 1. It's a deductive change order for direct purchasing, so we can gain the tax savings on the equipment, and it is for $186,615.
Move approval.
Move approved by Rasmussen, second by Wood. Questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously.
1810 is the pre-qualification of contractors, and there's 3 firms on the list this month.
Move approval.
Move Stripling, second Wood. Questions? None. Approved. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
All say aye. It was approved unanimously. He's gone. Okay, I'm still waiting. Okay. All right, then, we're at 1811, the Academic Accountability Plan for the School of Arts and Sciences at the Center.
Move approval. Second.
Second, moved by Rasmussen, second by Stripling. Questions from the board? None. All say aye if you
Aye.
approve.
Aye.
1811, Academic Accountability Plans. Well, maybe I ought to go to 12, Accountability Plan for the Tallahassee School of Math and Science.
Move approval.
Move Stripling, second.
Wood.
Wood. Questions? None. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
It passes 4. Okay, Charter School renewal request for Governor's Charter Academy.
Approval.
Approved Wood, second by
Second.
Stripling. Questions? None. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
It passes unanimously. Charter renewal request by Imagine School at Evening Rose.
Move approval.
Moved by Wood, second by Rasmussen. Questions? None. All approved say aye.
Aye.
Opposes the same. It passes unanimously. 1815, amendment to 2016 2017 school board meeting calendar.
Move approval.
Moved by Ms. Lewis Butler.
Second.
Second by Wood. Question? None? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposes the same. Unanimously, it passes. Amendment to the extended school year and summer reading academy calendars.
Move approval.
Moved Lewis Butler.
Second.
Second by Wood. Questions? None? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Approved, yes. Upcoming
Oh,
meeting.
Madam Chair.
Oh,
I have my
1810,
item.
yes. Mr. Wallen, 1817.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
I'll start this off by saying that I'm about to talk about a student matter, and it's a special education matter, so we have to use extra caution to not mention any names or anything in it. But I think each of you have been briefed on this situation by Opal and Dr. Cox. And we don't do this very often, but I'm going to recommend we do it in this case, okay? And what I'm going to recommend that we do and what I'm asking that you do is avail ourselves of a provision in the Sunshine Law. It's Section 286.011.8, and it allows for what's called a shade meeting, okay? And it allows the board of a government entity like a school board and the chief administrative officer, which is the superintendent, and the lawyers to meet in private to discuss pending litigation, okay? And in this case, we are a party to administrative litigation in a case called KR versus the School Board of Leon County. It's before DOA. It's case number, there's three of them, 16-589-1E, 16-737-5E, and 17-0002E. And all that's confidential, so if you go on their website, you're not going to find it because it's a special education case. Anyway, what I'd like to do, and I'm requesting, is that the board and the superintendent and Opal and I meet with you in executive session to discuss case strategy and get the board's advice regarding litigation and a proposed settlement agreement that has been presented to us. I expect it'll take no more than an hour, hopefully a lot less than that. The entire executive session will be transcribed by a court reporter who will transcribe the meeting, and that transcript will be filed, under seal with the school board clerk, and will be kept private until the litigation's over. After the litigation's over, the transcript will be available. We have to give 7 days notice of this meeting, and the public needs to know that we're having it. What goes on in it is confidential. It's not just, we have to keep it confidential. We don't have the liberty to disclose it because it relates to a special education matter. Anyway, our recommendation and request is that we do this in conjunction with the next board meeting, which is at the end of March. That'll give us plenty of time to do the notice and everything, and so I don't have to have your permission to do this. I can kind of request that you do it, and the statute anticipates that you'll be there. So just want to let you know that we're going to do this, and
Just right prior to the meeting.
we're going to move forward. Yes, ma'am.
What time?
We'll do it. We'll just take a break during the meeting, probably at the end. It'll be the last thing we do at the regularly scheduled board meeting, and that way everybody else can go. We'll go out of the room, have the court reporter, have our meeting, come back in, and if there's anything we need to vote on, it'll have to occur in the sunshine, but otherwise, I'll just have the benefit of hearing what you think about the settlement agreement.
Okay, Mrs. Richardson?
One clarifying question. You said after the litigation is over, the transcript would become public, but because it relates to a special education student.
Well, that's a good point. You're right.
I went to law school just like you.
You sure did. We may have to redact parts of it,
Okay.
but it will not, we'll have to make sure that it doesn't reveal any student
Okay.
names. But
I want to be sure about
right.
what we would be talking
when the
about.
transcript is prepared, we're going to use initials and things, so we don't disclose the names of any of the people.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so I think we have our marching orders in that particular item.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Mr. Wallen, let's see, I turned the page too quickly. Where are we now? Student comments, liaison reports? Reports from board liaisons?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to thank a few people for the Teen Summit.
I'm sorry,
The
second.
Teen Summit.
Okay.
I wanted to recognize the Teen Summit that was held February the 18th at Ricker High School. The NHBW, National Hookup of Black Women, held a Teen Summit at Rickers High School, February the 18th. Superintendent Hannah, Principal Cook, Rickers High School, Dr. Randy Pridgett, Dr. Gale. Want to thank the principals of all the secondary schools, Ms. Blumbley, our student school board member, our parents, teachers, presenters,
Dr.
facilitators,
Dr. Cox.
volunteers, staff, and students for a successful Teen Summit on February 18, 2017 at Rickers High School. We had 120 students on a rainy Saturday morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis. Superintendent comments?
No, ma'am, we still have several items to workshop, so I'll pass on any comments.
Oh. Tonight we got workshop?
3.
Have mercy, Lord. Continuing concerns from board members, none. As a matter of fact, under new issues from board members where I'm listed, I would just like to know, and it doesn't have to be tonight, what are the plans for recruitment if we are experiencing teacher shortage? But I will come back at another time and get information about that. Persons to be heard, Darla Wallach, I'm probably mispronouncing that, so please forgive me and correct me.
That was fine. My name's Darla Wallach, 2046 Garden Brook Lane. I have a handout. Oh, my time started. I'll give it to you.
I can stop. Look at there. This has a stop to it also.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to start you back at 0.
Okay.
Give you 7 seconds. Ready?
All righty. Thank you all for the opportunity to speak with you this evening. I'm proud teacher and guidance counselor in Leon County, and I'm here for you to help resolving an issue that I've been working on since September without any resolution. Although the Best and the Brightest Teacher Scholarship Program may not be the best way to highlight all teachers that put children first and help them reach high standards, I was a recipient last year. I met the eligibility requirements, including scoring within the 80th percentile with my ACT scores, and the definition of a teacher. I've worked very hard throughout my career and was proud to receive this award. This year, the Florida Department of Education clarified the eligibility requirements by defining who should be considered a classroom teacher, and that's a copy of what you have, and that includes professional activity of instructing students, classroom situations, basic instruction, exceptional student education, and career education. I spend 2/3 of my day in classroom instruction. I have my own classroom, and I am the only teacher in the classroom during instruction. I teach to the state standards. I integrate reading and math skills. I teach exceptional education students, providing accommodations for those students. I teach career education, and I am evaluated on the same system that the teachers are held to. At the September 6th school board meeting, this definition of classroom teachers was approved, and the clause, as verified with student assignments within the district student information system, was added. And that was shared with the school teachers as well. It was not shared that it would only include courses that were covered by a course code on the Department of Education course code list. In October, I received an email from the Director of Student Services confirming that school counselors who perform classroom instruction can meet classroom teacher eligibility requirements for the best and the brightest. She stated that, according to leadership, a counselor could be tied to students on the master schedule, such as a co-teacher or dual enrollment. I wanted to find out and then ensure that I was eligible this year, so I started asking questions. I started at the school level and then at the district level. Being a recipient of the Best and the Brightest last year, being in the same position, at the same school, with the same duties, I believe my name should have been submitted this year, which would have provided me with the same scholarship the other recipients received. I'm asking that the board seek to find a way to either get an additional name added to the state funding or find a way to provide compensation.
Thank you, Ms. Wallach.
Wow.
That was within the 3-minute limit.
Perfect.
Yes, yes, yes. Questions, board members? Ms. Rasmussen?
I have a question for the superintendent. My concern is that if she met the statutory and/or our policy criteria for eligibility, are there other people doing the same job with the same meeting eligibility that did make the list from other schools and not here? And that's my understanding that may be the case, and in which case I think we have an equity problem that I'm concerned about. I don't know if that's an HR problem or if it's site-based management problem, but I think equity and consistency in employment law is important.
It's just that. Yes.
I couldn't agree more, and Mrs. Wallach, I appreciate you coming. I'm going to ask if Dr. Gale can come speak to this Best and Brightest program and how it was implemented last year and the changes that took place for implementation this year to kind of give you a better understanding of what was set in play as far as students and who were assigned students and how we verified that teachers or counselors, guidance counselors were assigned students.
Thank you. Good evening. This year's Best and Brightest was different than last year. As you know, last year was the inception of the program. Last year, of course, the criteria was the same as far as a standardized test score, which had to be verified, also receiving a highly effective evaluation, and then confirmation from the principal or that site leader that teacher who was identified did in fact work with students. Last year, we could take the principal's word for this. This year, we worked with a team, Dina McAllister, Vi Dennis, we also had Scott Mazer, Merrill Wimberly, and we looked within the statutes to come up with the definition that they had to be tied to our student information system, which is Genesis. One of the things that you spoke about, Ms. Rasmussen, was equity. To that end, Dina McAllister, who took the lead on this program, and I'll ask her to come up as well, when it became a question of whether or not someone who had applied for the program did or did not meet that criteria, after we looked in Genesis, we talked to principals, and she has records of talking to principals to see, is there an error? Is there a way that this can be done? So please know that everything was done on our part to make sure that everyone who could be included was included.
I'm having a little problem with this. Because, again, I hate to keep saying when I was a principal, but I was a principal, and I know that Genesis, sometimes you have to kind of wheel it around to make the FTE system work, and you have to add a teacher to a course. But, on the face of it, it seems like it's more of a Genesis problem that we couldn't code her correctly if everything she says is true than her problem. And, that's almost a technology problem, not if she's qualified and she meets the criteria and she's done everything she can and she's teaching, I don't understand why we can't figure out a way to make it happen. If for her or any other teacher who falls in that, we shouldn't have a computer dictating someone's livelihood.
So, question then, who inputs the information into the computer?
The registrars, but I mean,
I'm
it's
just-
tricky how you do it. The course codes have to match up to certain funding, but that's what the state wants for us to get our FTE. But if a teacher actually qualifies and is teaching, that's just a coding problem in my mind.
Of course, you're not saying, and I know you're not, I'm just saying this for clarification, that we put courses in that teachers aren't teaching.
No.
It's
But sometimes there's
I
a
said-
co-teacher, sometimes there's, I mean,
Exactly.
there's different ways, and
Are you saying that she's, I'm sorry.
so I just want to know, is she correct in saying that she qualifies for the program and she taught students, and we're saying because she wasn't in the SIS system, she can't get this bonus?
As per our definition that went before the board, as she so eloquently said back in September, yes, ma'am,
Yes, ma'am, what?
That doesn't seem right.
that she met the ACT or SAT, I can't remember which one, qualification. She also received a highly effective evaluation. However, because she was not in, as it says within the definition, in the item that was bought before, and I think she gave you a copy of it, but it's not highlighted, that she has to have courses within our student information system.
Where is that language?
Is that on the
Looking
Florida
at-
statute?
Looking
1012?
at,
No?
it's at the Leon County School Board, what you approved back in September.
Very
Looking
end
at
of
the
the board
bottom of the sheet, but it's not highlighted as verified with student assignments within the district student information system.
So, Madam Chair, so you're saying she's a teacher or a counselor? What is she? Is she-
Guidance counselor, but I teach 2/3 of the day.
But she's a guidance counselor, but she's also doing teacher instructions. She teaches 2 classes a day.
She said 2/3 of the day. Come on up,
I'm
Ms.
sorry.
Warlock.
I teach 4 out of the 6 hours of the day.
Are they not SIS course codes? Is that the
They
problem?
are not course codes because health was taken off the elementary report card a few years ago. The guidance counselor prior to me used to teach, and we used the health standards for many of them. And that went grades, which put it on the report card, which puts it in the course codes. But that was removed from the elementary report card. So I do not give grades, although I do the pre-test, the post-test. I have, everything the teachers do. But that last part, because it's not on the report card, I don't give grades.
I see. Well, I understand why it's not on the SIS system
And
then.
so last year
Has
is
to
left
be-
up
Has to be connected to a
the
course. to
discretion of the
get a grade.
principal, and this year we changed the definition of who qualified and who didn't, and we didn't leave it up to the discretion of the principal, and here we are.
Are there other teachers in this situation?
I would
in the
imagine
district?
I would imagine there are, yes.
How many could we know?
Probably about 8. I asked Ms. McAllister to do some research per the superintendent. Probably about 8.
Okay. Further questions, board members? Where do we go from here?
I
Ms.
just want to
Rasmussen,
I
then
remember
Louis
when
Butler?
I do remember having the conversation about this policy, and the issue was that we had to comply with the statute. We had to show that they spent time with students.
Right.
I think this might be an unintended consequence of the way we defined it by limiting it to our student information system, which I have to agree with Ms. Wood. I think this is I don't think this is within the spirit of the law. I would hate for the limitations of this Genesis system to cause us to not be compliant with the spirit of the law. And I hope that I don't find out that there are people in this exact situation who other principals found a way for them to be qualified, and this wasn't the case here. Are you aware that that might be true?
I'm not aware of that. I am definitely aware with Ms. McAllister where there were cases where, like I said, there are 8. Per the superintendent, he asked us to do some research. Are there people who should be in the system? Personal calls were made to principals to ask, is this a course within the course code directory, and are they in Genesis? So we did everything that we could to make sure
Is this counselor required to teach this course at her school? Yes.
Yes, I teach, it's part of my schedule. I'm
okay.
required. I'm a special area teacher. The children rotate through my classes.
Not for me.
Well, it sounds down here on this end of the board that we had some good intentions, and I was talking to somebody the other day at lunch about intentions and the impact of those intentions, and it looks to me like
Road to hell is paved with good intentions.
we have impacted ourselves in a way that we may have some teachers that are going to be giving us a call or giving the superintendent a call based on what this particular board policy is about. Mr. Wallen, do you want to weigh in on this, please?
Only to this extent. I
Yes.
think it sounds like maybe there was an unintended consequence, and maybe this is a coding problem, not a Genesis problem. I'm not sure about how we fix this with the state, but rather than just continuing to sort of guess about this, I wonder
Find
if
out.
we could have board permission to have Opal and Dr. Gale and others look into this, find out what the 8 circumstances are and whether there is a way or not.
Yep.
That would be great.
Please.
And bring that back at the next board meeting.
I think that would be in order. I don't think there would be any objections. Thank you, Ms. Warlike, for being here. Thank you, Dr. Gale, for a further explanation. And thank you, Ms. McAllister, for almost speaking to us. All right, so that's clear in my mind on what we're doing about that. And now we're ready for the workshops that I totally missed. Wow. Workshop number 1, Mr. Superintendent.
I'm going to have Mr. Nimmons come up, and I'm going to also ask that and I'm sure it's been over 2.5 hours now, that they will give a brief update on where we are on all three of these items. So, Mr. Nimmons.
Yes, sir. I promise to be less than 5 minutes. And speaking of student information systems, wow, what a setup. So I appreciate the opportunity to get up in front of you tonight and talk about and excited about our plans to replace our current student information system. We're now actively engaged in that process of replacing our current SIS called Genesis, which you all mentioned a number of times tonight, and plan to have a new SIS in place by 2018-19. So why are we changing our information system? Genesis, believe it or not, was purchased in 2003, making it 14 years old, okay? Anytime you get something to last that long in technology, you're doing something. However, it's also likely you could be far behind from a technology perspective, and I think we are. Genesis is server-based technology, meaning you can only access it if you're on our network. It's not web-based, but modern SIS systems are accessible by teachers, students, parents, and staff anywhere at any time. Genesis is also at the end of life, meaning it's no longer being marketed by the company, so they're not getting new customers. In addition, their existing customers, and there's 4 of us left now, out of the 67 counties in Florida, there's 4 of us left on Genesis. We're all looking at new systems, okay? So what this, from my perspective, puts us at risk from a support perspective, meaning does the company have enough revenue to be able to continue supporting the application as they lose their remaining customers? So modern SIS systems are fully integrated. That means they serve everyone from students, parents, teachers, staff, to district administrators. They're also fully integrated, meaning the data is in one database and any change that is made is instantly available to all the other users, okay? For example, when a teacher changes attendance, the update is instantly viewable by parents on the parent portal. Today, we are using Genesis. We're actually copying data from system to system at night to all the various systems that need to be updated from Genesis. Modern functions of SIS include grading, scheduling, attendance, discipline, transcripts, and portals that serve parents that can look at grades, assignments, and attendance online, to even be able to do online new student registration, to students who look at it for grades and assignments, right, to find out what's going on with their grades. And then teachers that enter the grades and assignments, but also should be able to get to the demographics, discipline, and health information about the students in their classroom. So I think our users are ready for change. So it's time to take advantage of the new features offered by modern SIS. And like I mentioned earlier, and other things like online course selection, digital forms, and fee management, where as a parent, I can go online and pay for the yearbook, and pay for those lab fees, and pay for the field trip through this family portals they typically
Say no
call them.
more, Mr. Nimmons. We're sold. Aren't we sold?
So how are we going to get there?
going to be gone.
So how are we going to get there? Replacing, so I need to, this is real clear, replacing the SIS is a major undertaking. It really is. And this effort will be led by Brian Board, my applications director. Brian, do you mind standing for a second? So thank God it's his job to make this happen, and I just got to make sure he gets what he needs to make it happen.
Oh.
But he's a great guy, so we've got a great team, I think. So his team will evaluate vendor responses to over 1,800 technical requirements that vendors must respond to in this solicitation. So it's a big system. It really is our largest system.
yeah.
The most user, every user in Leon County Schools is impacted by the SIS, okay? And we want to make sure that this process is open and transparent, where all users are invited to participate in the selection process. So we're using a formal project management structure that includes evaluation teams, advisory, and steering committees. Okay? And the information learned through this process is then fed to the superintendent where he can make the decision. So when will we be using the new system? Next slide. Okay. So selection and implementation of new SIS is an extensive undertaking, like I said, and our goal is to have a selection made as soon as possible, but no later than June of this year. That leaves us approximately 1 year, and it sounds like a long time, but it is not a long time. We'll be under pressure to make this happen. And so we have to go through this laborious process of data conversion. That means moving data, all the different screens you have in Genesis in every little field has to be mapped to where it goes in a new system. So you can, if you think about that, that's quite an undertaking to do that. Then we have to configure the system to meet Leon County School unique needs. And our plan is to be scheduling and doing online course selections for secondary students beginning this time next year in the new system, followed by the core SIS implementation of August of 2018. So we've got a lot to do. We've already started that work. We are planning on releasing the request for information in March to the vendors. We're going to do 3-day vendor demonstrations of their products for the ones that are most competitive. We're not going to do it for everyone, but the ones we think are standing the best job, that would be the best system for us, and then have contract award by June.
Thank you. Go forth, prosper.
One question.
Go ahead.
Thank you. You laugh about the green form, but I think that's very serious. Is there going to be capability that parents can fill out those forms online and then just go back in every year
So-
and click no changes?
Yes, ma'am. So as we look at what modern SIS has offered, they seem to offer that. I do need to say this, though. In our rollout in 2018, August, that's not likely to be something that comes out in that first year because we have to make sure we get the core stuff done first. But I want it to be available the following year.
That would be great. Speaking on behalf of a parent of now 6.
We've all filled out those forms 100 times, right?
You need a little help.
Thank you for your time.
All the help I can get.
Thank you, Mr. Nimmons. Okay.
All right, student reassignment and controlled open enrollment, Dr. Gale, Jamie Holloman, Kelly Osley, Bev Owens, and Mr. Albritton. You're on the clock. Hit the button.
I was going to say,
Yeah, really.
Mr. Superintendent, would you be interested in entertaining the idea of spreading some of these out across?
Yeah, I kind of got caught off guard with these two. And we're going to be together again on Thursday, but I hate that they've
I'm
been.
sorry that
sitting-
you've been here all this time, but
If it's your pleasure and you would like to move them to Thursday afternoon, can we move them Thursday afternoon?
or we can space them out,
Or in the March meeting.
whatever. I know the hour is late and we're all tired and
Yeah, they've been here since.
Well,
if you're the chair, you go right ahead.
eat your Wheaties. Well, so do you not feel that we can hear one more tonight?
There's a lot of people out there.
Okay, so this is what we'll do, and they are so anxious. So what we will do, we will table the remaining number of our workshops, and then we will have them presented to us on what date. Now, you know we're together this coming when? Thursday for our retreat.
Wait to the following board meeting.
Gonna wait till the following board meeting? Come on now.
I know that this topic, though, is one that there are a lot of districts that are further down the road than we are. This is a really time-sensitive one. I just don't know that we're going to have the energy to give it the time it needs tonight.
This is the open enrollment choice thing.
We do need a little more energy.
Oh,
I
that's
would
right.
agree.
Now that you reminded me, you're absolutely right.
We need to be able to focus.
So if you all could, please indulge us and come back at a later date and time which we will give to you, having been reminded exactly now what we're talking about. I know that you really want to go ahead and present tonight, but could you see your way clearly to do that? Would you allow us? They said yes.
Thank you.
All right, that being said, is there any other business to come before the board tonight? Hearing none, Ms. Striplin offers a motion that we adjourn.
Thank you. Go home.